Hokage I can only draw S-rank rewards. Chapter 301-320. Chapter 301-enlisted. Frustration, helplessness, despair, fear. There is even a trace of awe, the awe of mortals for gods. It was the first time that Anilu, under the blessing of Thor, had such complicated emotions. Even when facing the Straw Hat Boy who could ignore all his attacks, he had never been like this. Different from Ernie Road, Master Wuji Zhangshengyi looked at the three endless backs towering in the clouds in front of him. No, it should be towering into the universe, and there was actually a kind of god, devil, Buddha, and three families standing side by side in his heart. And integrated ideas. Do you think it is necessary to continue fighting? The three voices sounded at the same time, all of them roaring like falling thunder, which lasted for a long time. Continue. I don't want to die. Why is there such a powerful existence in this world? Anilu took a few steps back subconsciously, and the 200 million VOD blessing that he had wrapped was also dissipating little by little. At this moment, he couldn't even mention a little war intent. I don't like to force people, so talk. Lei Luo, who also cancelled his three strongest states, merged with his avatar, looking at Anilu whose legs were already shaking with a playful look in his eyes. Talk. Talk about what? Yes, talk about it. Kunzi speaks and does not speak. Undecided, Anilu didn't know what he was talking about. Right now, he only had one thought in his mind, that is, if necessary, even kneeling down, he must survive. Seeing that Anilu agreed to his proposal, Lei Luo was relieved. The most effective way to deal with such arrogant people is always to use absolute power to make the other party surrender. The same sentence, would you like to follow me? Follow you. Is there any benefit to me? As soon as the words fell, Anilu couldn't wait to slap himself. How long has it been? Facing a powerhouse who can easily kill him in seconds, he still dares to make conditions. Hearing the good news, Lei Luo was also taken aback, but he soon recovered his calm. The advantage is that you can become a navy, and I will try my best to improve your combat power to the peak. At that time, Straw Hat Luffy is just a clown jumping beam in your eyes. After a little thought, Lei Luo said the greatest benefit he could offer. Taking revenge on the Straw Hat Boy Luffy, this is the goal that Anilu is thinking about every day, but he can only think about the relationship between the restraint of the Devil Fruit's ability. But now, it seems that someone can do this for themselves. Okay, I agree, but I have one request, and that is that no one in the Navy can give me orders except you. As the only true god of the Sky Island, Anilu always has an arrogance in his heart, which drives him to choose to obey orders only to those who are powerful enough to convince him. Anilu's request is nothing to Lei Luo, because he intends to build his own navy in the future, and he will not let others judge his subordinates, even the Lord of the World Government. Neither. Okay, I promise you, now you go back with me, take care of your body first and then talk about the rest. After a simple exchange, after enlisting Anilu in the army, Lei Luo took the two and drove towards the earth. Master Yi, the master-level swordsman, Anilu, who can be called a generation of French kings, plus Gejis, Leiju and others who still need to be improved in the future, Lei Luo is only the final layout in his heart. The hardest part is the huge base of soldiers. Although a high-level combat strength is enough to be worth hundreds or even more ordinary soldiers, after all, when 2 fists are invincible and 4 hands are finally exhausted, these basic combat strengths are still of considerable importance. But not a group of troops with bloodline factors, wearing technological combat uniforms, and holding weapons forged by Halu assimilation gas. The sum of their combat power cannot be underestimated. Whoosh! Lei Luo and the others, who had just landed on the ground, had not had time to stand firm, and a bullet accurately passed through Lei Luo's eyebrows. The enemy attacked, and the other party seemed to be an experienced sniper. It's a pity that he doesn't know Conqueror's hockey. Seeing the unresponsive Lei Luo and the unconscious Master Yi in the face of such a situation, Anilu knew very well that this was his chance to express himself. To the southeast, about 400 meters or so, the target is still moving away at high speed. Anilu, who slowly opened his eyes, raised his thin arm, and a thunder with the thickness of the mouth of the bull turned into a cheetah and swept out instantly. The next second, there was a scream in the distance, and there was a black smoke rising up. Your heart net seems more search-oriented than observation hockey. Lei Luo's voice sounded. After observing the heart net, he found that the heart net is more like a radar, which can capture the enemies around him, while observation hockey is more like a spiritual time travel. Slowly developed to the point of foreseeing the future. Where is this? At this moment, Gedges suddenly woke up and looked at Lei Luo with puzzled eyes. General Evil Eye, who are these two? After briefly introducing Anilu and Master Yi to Gedges, Lei Luo did not take the fact that someone sneaked up on him, but walked towards the island with 24 numbers written in front of him. This is the Chambord Islands. 24 is mainly an island with restaurants and other industries as a supplement. Lei Luo, who has traveled all the way from the moon to the earth, even if he has the displacement skills of light speed and void walking, with 3 people, it also took a very long time. However, in the chaotic universe, there is no concept of time, and now Lei Luo does not know how far the world of pirates has developed. He only knows that he is hungry and needs to find a place to eat to replenish energy. This, and this, don't want all of them, and the rest will be served 4 times. Lei Luo, who still has more than 900 million Baileys in the system storage space, is naturally rich, and even the waiter can't believe it when he comes up to operate. Take the menu to the chef. What, are you worried that I can't pay this little money? In the eyes of others, Master Yi and others, Lei Luo once again pretended to be a big match unintentionally. Mr. Lei, I'm afraid I won't be able to finish the food after ordering so much. Navy, one of our family's rules is not to waste food. Seeing that Lei Luo made such a lavish shot, Gedges hurriedly spoke to stop him. Long before entering the 24th island, Lei Luo used his life to change his appearance into a big fat man, and at the same time explained to the 3 people that only Mr. Lei was spoken in spoken language, and the Navy used his family instead. Chapter 302 Restaurant Island Number 24. Waste. I'm not afraid enough. Lei Luo smiled helplessly, then turned his attention to Master Yi and Anilu, who were looking at the menu. After the war on the moon, Master Yi has not eaten food for a long time since he appeared on the empty island, and he is already hungry with his chest on his back. And Anilu, the last time I ate something, it seemed like 2 years ago. It's been so long that he's not sure if he will still use all kinds of utensils correctly. Mr. Lei, this is the supreme VIP card of our restaurant. I hope you will accept it with a smile. At this moment, a gorgeous, fat middle-aged man walked up to Lei Luo with a smile on his face. In his hands with white gloves, he was holding a card made of pure gold and inlaid with the 3 letters of VIP with small diamonds. The boss is the boss, and he really knows how to be a man. Lei Luo smiled at the man after he casually threw this VIP, which represented the highest treatment, to Gedges. No matter what industry it is, whether it is civil or military, there will be 2 kinds of people. One is as blind as the waiter, and the other is someone who is very good at doing things like this boss. It is precisely because of this that employees are employees. Gudong. At a dining table not far from Lei Luo, a short man in a straight striped road suit clasped the Yuhi wine glass in his hand on the table. What a vulgar woman, it really spoils my appetite. Come on, go and gag her mouth on Lao Su. Godfather, this is near the naval headquarters. If we act in such a big way, I'm afraid we will cause unnecessary trouble. Facing the reminder from his subordinates, the short man glared angrily at the next table, and the steel fork in his hand was also deformed by him. Attracted by this scene, Lei Luo followed the man's eyes and saw a young woman with long pink yuhi hair, wearing denim shorts and white half-sleeves, and the pair of brown boots on her feet, which made the straight and slender legs even more attractive. With a young and beautiful appearance, the figure supported by a pair of long legs is extraordinarily tall, coupled with the heart-shaped mouth yuhi on her fragrant lips, no matter how you look at it, it is a rare stunner in the world. It's just a pity that the woman grabbed the food in front of her with her hands and shoved it into her mouth indiscriminately, which is simply the embodiment of rudeness in the world. Isn't it done yet? These cooks are all short of arms and legs. The plates are all bottomed out. Didn't the waiter see it? Yes, as soon as the woman opened her mouth, her originally beautiful image was greatly reduced in Lei Luo's heart. If a rude woman with foul language sits next to her, she will also lose her appetite. At this moment, Lei Luo understands the mood of the short man. Swish. Just when the little man who was holding back the anger in his heart stuffed the paper balls into his ears and was about to enjoy the delicious steak he had just served, a pair of slender jade fingers took it away with lightning speed and stuffed it into his mouth. Ah, it's hot. It's hot. That's right, the rude woman started to snatch the food from the surrounding guests. It was hot in her mouth, but she still swallowed it and continued to snatch food from the table beside her with both hands. Hey, uncle, by the way, filet mignon is best medium rare, your 7 is a bit old. After stealing Lao Su's food, there are still so many mouths. Fuck, believe it or not, I shot you now. Finally, the middle-aged man who had been silent for a long time couldn't bear it any longer. He pulled out the pistol attached to his waist, and with a clamor, the muzzle was buckled between the brows of the rude woman. You fucking threaten Lao Su again. Seeing this, the rude woman was not to be outdone. Her oil-stained palm directly grabbed the short man's collar. Most of the words were foul language, and Lei Luo couldn't hold back a laugh, and it was at this moment that he caught a glimpse of Gedges, who looked flustered. What's the matter? Are you feeling unwell? In Lei Luo's perception, even if Gedges, an ordinary person, is protected by Master Yi, after traveling through the universe at the speed of light, his body will feel uncomfortable to some extent. However, Lei Luo was shocked by the answer that Gedges got up and bent his ears. Born in the West Sea, the captain of the Flame Tank Pirates, the godfather of the gang, with a bounty of 138 million Bailey, Kappenberg. And from the South China Sea, the captain of the Bonnie Pirates, the Big Stomach Girl, Joel Bonnie, with a bounty of 140 million Bailey. After the two tops the war, they were rated as 11 supernovas. Lei Luo, who was trying hard to recall the plot of the original novel, remembered that the scene in front of him did not appear, but he had already seen this kind of thing as a surprise. After all, because of his appearance, the original storyline had begun to shift. Boss, the guests are making trouble with you, don't you plan to take care of them? Lei Luo, who didn't plan to reveal his identity, asked the restaurant owner who was watching this scene with a smile. Mr. Lei, in the eyes of us people, customers are gods, and the quarrel between customers is like the battle of the gods. How can we mortals be so embarrassed to intervene? PFF'd. Facing the reply given by the restaurant owner, Lei Luo smiled. They thought that there was still such a thing to say. Hey, the two of you have the same fortune as me today. You can't kill or see killing, otherwise you'll have bad luck. In the restaurant where the sword was drawn, and life could happen at any time, a blonde, slender man with 6 paths vertical stripes on his forehead above his eyes slowly pulled Becky and Bonnie over. The captain of the North Sea Hawkins Pirates, Basil Hawkins, the magician, with a bounty of 249 million Bailey. With just one glance, whether it was Lei Luo and Gedges, Becky or Bonnie, they recognized the blonde man's identity. Hawkins, you'd better tell the truth just now, or I will crash with you. Becky slowly withdrew the pistol. For Hawkins, what is truly famous in the world is not how superb his combat effectiveness is, nor the earth-shattering great things he has done, but the divination that he has almost never made a mistake. This made Becky subconsciously choose to stop. You, Rhea fucking coward, don't fucking show up in front of my mother next time. Waiter, serve, what are you looking at? Bonnie's grumpy temper, even if Becky had already chosen to stop, she was still unforgiving at all. The Shambird Islands, 3 supernovae. The information quickly revolved and reorganized in Lei Luo's mind, and a big question appeared in his mind. How long has it been since he went to the moon to recruit Enelu, and is it the worst era in his mind? Chapter 303-1-1. Boss, how long has it been since the top war event? Lei Luo asked casually. The bar business was not very good at this time, and the owner was also wiping his glasses. If everything really goes as he expected, then everything will be on track today. Mr. Lei, it should be more than a year since the end of the war on the top today. The answer given by the restaurant owner was not the 2 years in Lei Luo's mind. Wait a minute, this scene should have happened 2 years ago. Suddenly, Lei Luo's mind came up with the comics he had been chasing day and night. The appearance of Supernova 11 should have been before the war. Why is it happening again now? Mr. Lei, the owner of the house has ordered a long time ago that anyone who encounters Joeli Bani who escaped from the headquarters must be arrested as soon as possible. Gedger's voice rang softly in Lei Luo's ear again, the owner of which was the current Admiral Akainu Sakaski. Understood, now you tell me the identities of the 3 of them first. From Gedger's mouth, Lei Luo learned that Becky had married Charlotte Chifeng, the 22nd daughter of Big Mom, and Bonnie escaped from the Navy. As for Hawkins, she was still her original identity. It seems that everything is still developing according to the original storyline, which is purely accidental today. Boss, let me ask you one more question. What would you do if your customers destroyed your restaurant in Battle of the Gods? The restaurant owner was also a little overwhelmed by Lei Luo's sudden question, but he still gave a humorous answer in a very short time. Then I will report to the naval headquarters and let the gods experience what is called Ragnarok. Lei Luo, who was once again amused by the restaurant owner's words, laughed out loud this time, attracting everyone's attention. Ha ha ha, what a Ragnarok. Only this time, you don't need to report, your 3 gods will now face the flame demon that destroyed Asgardro. Lei Luo's words didn't point out who the 3 were, but for some reason, everyone present seemed to have a heart-to-heart, and all their eyes were fixed on Becky, Bonnie, and Hawkins. In the same way, the 3 of them also sensed a vague sense of danger from Lei Luo's body. Compared to Becky's silence and Bonnie's disdain, Hawkins chose to take out his divination card. Osterk, the running god. Looks like I'm going to find a chance to slip away first. Every action of Hawkins will be based on the results of his divination. Even if the opponent is very weak, as long as the divination results show that he may die because of it, then you will see a figure without looking back and leave gracefully. Hey, boy, it's not appropriate for this uncle to kill today, it's good luck for you. Bekanu, who heard Hoskins whisper, snorted. I don't know if this sentence was said to Lei Luo or to Bonnie. Anyway, after he finished speaking, he dropped a bag of Bailey and took his men with him. To leave. Swish. Lightning flashed, electric lights flickered, and a figure holding a big drumstick appeared in front of Becky. Want to go easy and beat me? Before Becky could reply, another green figure stood in front of him and killed several of his subordinates. Mr. Lei said that this person is handed over to me, and you can deal with the one who wants to get away. After being reminded by Lei Luo, Master Yi knew that Becky's devil fruit was a fortified city fruit, and he could build a castle within his body under the control of his mind or directly transform himself into stone. The stone does not conduct electricity, and Enelu, who has not yet recovered to its peak, will suffer a big loss when the fruit is restrained, especially if the opponent is a pirate whose strength is recognized by the world. Lei Luo didn't want to recruit his subordinates, because the stone could not conduct electricity and was stimulated, and finally began to find the way to the infinite land by himself again. The winning percentage is 4 or 6, I'm 4 and you are 6. Hawkins grinned for himself again, pulled over a chair and sat down, as if he had no intention of resisting. This made Enelu, who was very upset, instantly become excited after the opponent was replaced. One admits his strength and gives up resistance. This is the ability of a god, and he can defeat the opponent without taking a shot. Hey, Enelu from Sky Island, how about we two play a game? How do you know I'm from the Sky Island? My divination also told me that you were in a very far away place. Tell me, what to play? What's the stake? Anilu, who hadn't talked to anyone carefully for several years, became the kind of child who didn't wait in front of a fortune teller after a few words, and even chose to accept Hawkins' proposal. This is a poker card. You shuffle the cards and draw for you and me. The winner will be determined in one round. If I win, you must let me go. If I lose, there will never be any defiance when captured. What do you think, Lord Navy? Through the results displayed by the divination, Hawkins probably judged that the people in front of him were extremely difficult, and he already knew the identities of the Navy. Okay, I agree. At the moment when Anilu agreed, Hawkins seemed to be conjuring up a new set of playing cards, and he threw it to Anilu for the first time. Hey, boy, if you want to fight, go out and fight, don't waste my mother's time. Bonnie, who was still stuffing things into his mouth, looked at Gedges slowly walking towards him, and roared in a very unhappy heart. When tasting food, the people I hate the most are those who come to fight with my mother. At this moment, Lei Luo also used his life to return to his arms and restored his appearance to his previous appearance. The pair of Gorilla Yuhi's eyes shone in front of everyone's eyes. Yuhi-colored eyes, those are evil eyes. Could it be that that person is the contemporary Admiral Xie Mo Lei Luo? No, I heard Lei Luo went out, how could he be here? Different people have different positions, and everyone's ideas must be wild, but now, they look into Lei Luo's eyes and seem to be waiting for something. Bonnie is right. If you want to fight, go out and fight, so the three of you understand. In the next moment, the impact force erupted from the friction between Haor and Sword Chi, thunder, and the air. In just a moment, they each carried this figure and came to the humanoid passage of the civilian street. 3 one-on-one battles are about to begin. Chapter 304-Promise Kendo. On the 24th Island Common Street in the Chambord Islands, a tall building appeared out of thin air, and Becky and Master Yi were no longer seen. Beside this building, there was Gedges standing in a daze, and an old woman who collapsed in front of him with a terrified expression. General Evil Eye, did you see where Bonnie went? After escorting the old woman to a safe area, Gedges turned to Lei Luo and asked. Strange, where did Bonnie go? Her breath is clearly still around here. This point, Lei Luo was also very puzzled, but when he used the 9 Tomo Samsara Sharingan to check the aura in everyone present, a message suddenly popped into his mind. That old woman just now, she's Bonnie herself. Although the original comics did not mention what the power of Bonnie's devil fruit is, she seems to be able to turn herself into a child or an old man to avoid people's eyes and ears. Forget it, let her escape again. Lei Luo, who used observation haki to realize that Bonnie had fled to the port, did not choose to continue to hunt down, because just now, he was vaguely in the crowd and saw a long-nosed man with goggles, which was fleeting. Boom! Suddenly there was a violent explosion from the castle that appeared out of thin air, and then a green figure flew out of the thick smoke, and he did not forget to swing a sword energy with his backhand on the way. However, under the eyes of the public, the lower body of the castle suddenly turned into a tank crawler, and the upper body appeared a shield made of mud and various types of guns and ammunition. This is Becky's fruit ability. There is a castle in his body that he controls personally. With just a thought, he can create anything he wants in the castle. Seeing that his sword energy was exhausted in the quagmire, Master Yi did not choose to continue to shoot, but held the long sword in front of him, and the sound of chanting came from his mouth, and the green light enveloped him like a light, meditating. Status is on. Da 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 da. In the face of the Navy, Becky will naturally not have any hold. The blue fire Gatling, the smoke is not dispersed. It is a sniper rifle with a full 20mm caliber air explosive projectile, and guns such as submachine guns. The flames didn't stop for a minute. What is a hail of bullets? This is a hail of bullets. Only Becky alone can burst out the firepower of an army. General Evil Eye, the swordsman you recruited is so powerful that he was able to block such a fierce firepower with just his sword energy. Gedges was shocked, but in the next moment, the scene that appeared in front of him made him stunned. Boom! With a loud bang, a dazzling thunder light roared out of Master Yi's body, followed by the hot blood of Yuhi. This is the thunder of Enelu. How could this be? Not only the spectators and Gedges, but even Master Yi, who is the party involved, and the owner of thunder, Enelu, were full of confusion. Lei Luo, who was the only one who knew Akatsuki's reason, didn't say anything, just glanced at the charred straw doll that appeared in the air behind Master Yi at some point. This trick is Hawkins' trick straw doll, and its effect is to transfer the damage to others. Facing the out-of-the-air thunder that seriously injured him, Master Yi quickly pressed his hands on several acupoints on his chest. At the same time, to stop the blood, the plateau bloodline was activated. Condition. Regarding Master Yi's reaction, Lei Luo had nothing to say, but because of what happened in front of him, he stood there dumbfounded, and Enelu, who had not even used any defensive measures, disappointed Lei Luo very much. In the battle of life and death, there are many variables. If you can't keep a calm mind and guess the ability of the enemy, then this person will never become a real powerhouse. Although Hawkins, who had been drifting in this sea for several years, wanted to escape, he did not mind seriously injuring the Navy when he faced the overwhelmed Navy, so as to increase his chances of winning for his escape. Swish! I saw Hawkins pull out the long sword from his waist. Before the sound of unsheathing could reach the human ear, the blade made of fine iron disintegrated instantly. When they appeared again, it was still a long whip with alternating straws. Appeared on Enelu's chest. Ah! The heart-piercing sound of eating pain sounded, and Enelu's figure turned into a lightning bolt and quickly disappeared. He couldn't understand why all the opponents he encountered were so fucked up. It wasn't that the fruit ability completely restrained him, or the monsters like Lei Luo who couldn't see the depth even if he looked up, or it was just like the one in front of him. This blonde man, while the attack is ineffective, he can easily break through his elementalization. This has never happened before. Enelu, calm down, your speed is far higher than Hawkins, plus Xinhuang, the one who takes the initiative in this battle will always be you. Lei Luo's voice sounded, and there was a strong meaning of hating iron. At the same time, Becky, who was fighting Master Yi on the other side, was not so easy. An experienced swordsman with a special ability similar to armament hockey, since he doesn't want to be captured by the Navy, he has to use his trump card. Boom! Becky's body suddenly grew and enlarged, and the human appearance was replaced by the city wall along the way, but within a few seconds, a giant in the shape of a castle that looked like a man and a man appeared in front of everyone. That's Becky's stunt, full-size boss. Gorgeous exclaimed. He was also from the West Sea and knew the trick of the great pirate Becky very well. If Becky's previous state was only equivalent to an immovable fortress, then now he is like a city that can move at any time, whether it is people, horses, or vehicles, guns and cannons, there will be a steady stream of guns from his wrist. It rushed out of the black hole until it completely crushed the enemy. Come out, my army. A low voice came from the inside of the castle giant, which was quickly replaced by the galloping horses and the roar of cannon carts. In the black holes on the left and right sides of the body, a chilling and powerful morale continued to exude. Although there are many enemies, they will all be slashed with one blow. Wuji Kendo, 10,000 swords will return to the sect. The figure of the promised sword saint slowly floated into the air and closed his eyes. At this time, the sword chi around his body was born from the body, and it was unparalleled. Kill. At the moment when thousands of troops rushed out of the castle giant's body, Master Yi's eyes suddenly opened. Chapter 305-200 million, is that enough? The moment Master Yi waved the Qingfeng in his hand, countless long swords composed of sword intent swept down in the air, like an unstoppable storm. The sword spirit that dances in the sky, the sword spirit that is like a net of heaven and earth, and the sword spirit that is like a broken bamboo, the three are perfectly blended, even Lei Luo is amazed. Good swordsmanship. As Master Yi's opponent, Becky, who is not a swordsman, couldn't help but sigh at the subtlety of this move. kill. One after another, the chilling sound went straight into the sky. The troops, who were fully armed from head to toe, rode war horses made of machinery, and never flinched when they met the sword energy. In the back row, there were even soldiers with guns, shells or icy arrows. It was completely placed on Master Yi's thin body. Boom boom boom. The explosion resounded in the air, and the smoke covered people's eyes. Great opportunity. Hawkins took advantage of his hands-to-hand seal, and after reciting a strange incantation in his mouth, the long knife that had recovered to its iron body stabbed into his lower abdomen. No blood flowed, no internal organs fell, and some were just endless straws, intertwined in the air quickly, gradually forming the appearance of Hawkins. That is Hawkins' demonic appearance, which can greatly enhance his abilities in all aspects. Anilu, remember to be careful next time. It was not Lei Luo who reminded Anilu, but Gedgers. At this moment, Lei Luo, who was helpless, let out a long sigh, because as a bystander, he could see everything clearly, but the client, Anilu, was attracted by Master Yi's trick and was played by Hawkins. Dong dong dong. Aware that the battle in the other battlefield was about to end, Anilu also chose to beat the drum on his shoulders, and directly decided the outcome with Hawkins. Hey, even if you can transfer damage, there must be an upper limit, right? Next, let me see how you transfer Lao Su's trick. One after another, the lightning flashed, making the originally clear sky darkened in an instant. Among the thick dark clouds, there were thunder pythons bursting out of their heads. The triangular eyes of the gorilla Yuhi locked on the scarecrow on the ground, condensed by the thunder paste. On the snake letter child, contains the supreme thunder power. 50 million volt python disaster, fall. Anilu raised his arms and shouted, and hundreds of sturdy thunder pythons roared down from the sky. Just a little thunder light scattered was enough to blast the construction along the way into a black hole the size of a bowl. The straw clone of Hawkins below is also struggling to blend the surrounding flowers and plants with its own straw, trying to create an absolute defense. Even if the main body has escaped, the avatar has to cooperate with him. After all, this is Hawkins' professionalism when he plays with the enemy, in order to enjoy the unbelievable expression of the opponent when they meet for the second time. The endless sword energy, the galloping army, the roaring thunder python, and the harbor condensed by straw all collided. The screams, explosions, and roars were endless, and the dazzling aurora was even more difficult to open. Ha ha ha, I really are the strongest. After a long time, Anilu's wild laughter came from the dust. At this moment, there were only endless gravel and charred flowers and plants on the soles of his feet. On the other hand, Master Yi's long sword was gently picked at Becky's chin. This scene of movement and stillness has a very strong contrast, but in the final analysis, it shows the strength of the two. Hey, it's always like this. That's the house I just built. Looks like I'm going to sleep on the streets again. Facing the victory of the Navy, the residents of the island not only did not have any intention of celebrating, but complained a lot, which made Lei Luo quite different. Mr. Lei, oh no, Lord Lei Luo, you work hard day and night as an admiral, so you may not know something. The restaurant owner was still so discerning, and immediately explained the reason for Lei Luo. It turned out that in the hearts of ordinary residents, they were afraid of the invasion of pirates, but they were even more afraid of the battle between the Navy and the pirates. For the former, handing over the money may leave a life behind, and the lost wealth will only need time to make up for it. But for the latter, the more intense the war, the more serious the damage will be. Not to mention the innocent casualties, the damage to the town alone has already caused most people to lose their families. Yes, they successfully seize the opportunity that pirates can forever prevent them from plundering money. However, the pirates have never stopped one after another, and the battle has never stopped because of this. In the end, this is just a big or small loss for ordinary people. Are you saying that the previous Navy never gave any compensation to these residents? Facing Lei Luo's question, the restaurant owner didn't know how to answer. If you answer yes in a conscience, then your business on this small island can be closed down. But if I tell the truth, the killing intent that Lei Luo burst out to the world that day, even through the screen, the restaurant owner can clearly feel it. Notice. Yes, that's right, you navies have never compensated us. Kizaru was like this 2 years ago, Akainu 3 years ago was like this, and even Aokiji 5 years ago was just using his abilities to repair it. House, but how long will those ice cubes last? Quote. Just when the restaurant owner was in a dilemma, an angry woman rushed out of the crowd. Judging from her dejected appearance, she must have not been doing well over the years. In order to carry out the so-called justice, he will not hesitate to use any means, not even the emotions of the people who are protected by himself. Does this count as a navy? Yes, this is the navy. Whether before or now, Lei Luo will give a positive answer. Facing the pirates that are springing up like mushrooms after the rain, all the navy can do is resolve the battle quickly and go to another place. If it takes too long because some people build their houses, others may die. Between the abuse of people's hearts and the safety of the people, Cyborg Sora, Sengoku and Akainu will firmly choose the latter, and Lei Luo is no exception. As the marshal, the three Akainu must start from the big picture. The ever-expanding base of the Navy simply does not allow for a trace of economic waste, let alone compensation for unintentional damages. These costs, for the Navy with almost zero tax revenue, will never be able to bear the burden. However, Lei Luo is different. He has 900 million Baileys in the storage space of the system, which is his personal property that he can use at will. Since it was my subordinate who caused the damage, then I will naturally make amends. When the words fell, Lei Luo snapped his fingers, and 2 piles of Baileys as high as hills appeared in front of everyone. 200 million, is that enough? Chapter 306-2 years later. Hey, have you heard that there is a concert on Island 33 and it's full? Isn't it? I bought a ticket, let's not talk about it, I'm afraid I won't have a seat later. The world tour of the King of Souls concert is really hot. After dealing with the compensation, Lei Luo and his party were about to leave when they heard the above conversation when passing by island number 20. King of Souls Brook. In just an instant, the skeleton figure in a suit appeared in Lei Luo's mind. I won't go back yet. General Evil Eye, are you planning to go to the concert too? No, let's go to a pub on Island 13 for a few drinks. Lei Luo grinned and walked ahead of himself. At the same time, on a certain island. Boom. With the sound of a gunshot, all the pedestrians leaned towards the sides subconsciously, revealing a sloppy fat man with a pistol and a straw hat and a long-nosed man who was helplessly crying, hugging his bleeding girlfriend tightly. You two are a bit like the guy I'm looking for, so I shot. The man with the straw hat spoke in a hurry. Besides, I seem to think you have something against me. Boom. Before the words were even finished, another shot rang out, and 2 corpses appeared on the ground, leaning against each other. Straw Hat Luffy is too much. Sure enough, the pirates of the worst era. Hey, the 2 of them still have heartbeats, come and carry them to the hospital with me. Straw Hat Boy, wait, the Navy from Island 24 will be here soon. Boom, another shot, a pool of blood, and a dead body. The Navy, when did my uncle put the Navy in his eyes? You said yes, F. You don't have fucking eyes. The man called Straw Hat Luffy didn't seem to be at all afraid, but before he could finish speaking, a tall and straight young man with a backpack the size of 2 people on his shoulders walked past him, and the brute force directly knocked him out. Overturned to the ground. It's broken, hurry up, everyone is ready, another person is going to the hospital. Looking at the back of the young man in front of him who didn't know who he was provoking, the surrounding people said helplessly. Hey, you fucking stop. The man known as Straw Hat Luffy roared angrily. At this time, he must shoot the young man who hit him. Huh, did you bump into someone? Sorry, bye. The young man turned his head, left the sentence, and continued to walk forward. Is this being ignored? How dare a thin young man look down on Lao Su? In the blink of an eye, a few strangely dressed men, fat or thin, tall or short, surrounded the young man. Straw Hat Luffy pressed the musket in his hand to the young man's face. Hey, boy, you seem very swollen. How dare you treat Lao Su's head with such an attitude? Hey, don't scare the children. After all, my guns often go off. Straw Hat Luffy and his party were like hooligans, sing-along and verbally intimidating the young man. Recognizing the identities of these people, then being afraid, kneeling and begging for mercy, and finally turning into a cold corpse. This is the script in everyone's heart. I'm sorry, I'm in a hurry, so please let me go. As the young man said these words, the entire street instantly became quiet. That person is the Straw Hat Luffy who made a fuss at the Navy headquarters during the war. How dare he talk to people like that? Do you feel that your life is too long and you want to leave this beautiful world earlier? Under the shocked eyes of everyone, the young man actually pushed away the Straw Hat Luffy just as he said, and walked towards the front as if nothing had happened. We seem to be looked down upon again. Straw Hat Luffy laughed in anger. The sound of the gun being loaded in his hand was so conspicuous. Hey, young man, why can you bear it? In the crowd, the old people sighed helplessly, the men dared not to speak out, and the women covered their eyes and the children. Boom! The gunshot rang, the smell of gunpowder filled the air, and the young man stopped. You died. I don't know if it was an illusion, but Straw Hat Luffy actually felt that the shot he just missed. However, just as he was about to step forward to find out, the young man slowly turned his face back and glared angrily. Dong dong dong. Straw Hat Luffy and his party, for some unknown reason, all fell to the ground with a bang, while the young man, under the shock of everyone, continued to move forward on his own. Island 15. In order to avoid unnecessary trouble, Lei Luo and his group, who were approaching Island 13, did not wear Navy uniforms and drowned in the crowd as ordinary tourists. Huh. Suddenly, Lei Luo froze for a moment, then frowned and turned to look into the distance. Immediately following, Master Yi and Anilu did the same. It seemed that in that direction, a major event occurred that surprised them. General Lei Luo, have you found anything? Unexplained, Gedges scratched his head and asked. At this time, Lei Luo's brows gradually stretched, and a smile appeared on his face. He turned around and continued to walk towards Island 13. Gedges, when you get to the tavern, you'll soon know who we're going to meet on this trip. Some of the Chambord Islands. Women. This is a real woman. A blonde man in black with a cigarette shouted excitedly. That appearance seemed like a lunatic in the eyes of passers-by. Finally got rid of the Navy. But why did Brooke have a concert all of a sudden? A tall black lady with sunglasses, looked at the newspaper in her hand in confusion. We haven't seen each other for 2 years, and the relationship between Sanji and Zoro seems to be getting better. A human-shaped reindeer with a round hat and a blue nose looked at the blonde and green-haired men in front of him, with a smile on his face. Usopp, you've become a lot stronger in the past 2 years. Well, I have graduated from the weak trio. You and Chopper will be protected by my hero from now on. The pair of men and women who were laughing on the street were exactly the ones that Straw Hat Luffy was looking for. Island 13. Super Sunshine has been refitted. Zoro, don't go to sleep, come and see if there is any dissatisfaction. This is a man who is almost 2 meters tall, and most of his body has been transformed into equipment. At this time, he is calling to lie under a tree not far away, and there are a few empty wine beside him. Bottle of green algae head swordsman. Frankie, your skills are getting better and better. I can feel that everyone and that nasty cook are on their way to the tavern. We will meet again soon. Chapter 307-auction. Compared to the excitement and joy in the hearts of the Straw Hats who were about to meet, Lei Luo's face was gloomy at the moment. In the slave trade posters posted everywhere, he saw the little girl who was rescued by him when he first came to the world of pirates, in the way of the finale auction. Change of behavior, Target Island Number 1, Population Auction. The three of Master Yi didn't know why Lei Luo suddenly chose to let go of the Straw Hat Gang who were pirates, but from Lei Luo's expression, they read the cold killing intent. At this moment, in a splendid underground hall, there are people from all over the world sitting, including pirates wandering in the sea, and rich people with prominent identities. Among them, the most eye-catching one is sitting alone in the front row. There were more than a dozen black-clothed bodyguards and men wearing bubble hoods. That is the most honorable Tianlong people in the world. This auction item is called Blasting Rock. Even though it is only the size of a palm, the power that can explode after the container is broken is enough to wipe out any small island from the world. The price is 50 million Baileys. On the auction stage, the host pulled down the yuhi cloth, revealing a red yuhi-colored rock that was hidden in it and wrapped in various secret equipment. 55 million Baileys. 60 million Baileys. 100 million Baileys. The sound of rising prices continued to sound, and soon the rock was pushed to a price beyond its own value. That's right, this is the most chaotic area. Even the objects that are banned by the world government are endless. As long as you have enough money, you can get everything you want. Seeing that a group of lowly people behind him actually fired a broken stone for such an exorbitant price, the Tianlong man Mike Yasheng smiled contemptuously. A group of garbage that has never been seen in the world, this kind of thing in Lao Su's family, still on the street, no one wants to take a look. The blasting rock was quickly sold for 140 million Baileys, and none of the following items were sold for less than 100 million Baileys. Auction has always been a game for the rich. Most people do not buy what they need urgently. In their eyes, this is a game of profligacy that ordinary people cannot imagine in their entire lives. This man has a peculiar ability, that is, everything he touches has a probability of being converted into gold with a purity of 100%, starting from. Before the host could finish the introduction, the burly man suddenly broke free from the chains on his hands with brute force, and his rough hands touched the host's terrified face. Hey, the finale item is temporarily changed to a 100% pure gold figure, starting at 10 Bailey, let's start. I saw that the man who was still an auction item suddenly turned his back on the customer, and auctioned the host who had been standing on the stage for a long time. This scene did not frighten anyone present, but caused their blood to burst and their hearts to pound. Such an exciting scene, I haven't seen it for many years. Hey, you will send someone to the backstage later to chop off that man's hands for me, and I will hang them in the living room to show them to my relatives and friends. Makoya suddenly became interested, but his target was not the terrified golden man, but the hands that turned the host into gold. 4 billion Baileys once. 4 billion Baileys twice. The 4 billion Bailey deal. Congrats to the white-haired little brother who solved the last obstacle to the big axis for us. With an iron cage covered by yuhi cloth being pushed onto the stage, the entire auction room fell silent in an instant, and everyone's eyes were firmly locked on this big shaft. The main axis of this auction is the only clan from the mysterious island in the North Sea. It is said that the women on this small island have special blood flowing in their bodies. As long as they spend a good night with them, they will gain the power to control water. The starting price is 10 billion. Bailey. The host's words fell, and the already peaceful environment became even quieter. Everyone's eyes were constantly rolling, as if they were thinking about a plan. 10 billion Bailey is indeed an astronomical figure for the rich present, but this money is definitely worth the money. It is the most deadly to be able to obtain the ability comparable to devil fruit without becoming a landlubber. Temptation. Of course, if you don't have enough money, it might be a good idea to kill people after the fact to get treasures, and then destroy the corpses with one hand. I give 10 billion Baileys. In the center of the second row of the auction hall, a high-spirited young man dismissed the scum behind him. As the top 3 super rich in the pirate world, 100 Bailey is just a month's expense for him. Boom. There was a sudden gunshot, the smell of blood instantly filled the entire auction hall, and a dark deep hole appeared between the little brother's eyebrows. It is very common for someone to kill people here, but someone dares to shoot a well-known super-rich in front of so many people. Isn't this equivalent to announcing his own tragic death? 10 billion Bailey, this little girl belongs to me. I have finished speaking, is there any objection? Looking at the thick smoke rising up, the person who spoke, the murderer of this incident, was the heavenly dragon man Micah Saint. Wealth, that power, status, who can compare to Tianlong people? As for the rankings of the richest people in the outside world, it's just that the Tianlong people don't want to participate, because among the Tianlong people, even if they just randomly pull a family, they have the financial resources to absolutely crush the number one ranking. Tianlong people shot, who would dare to bid? Saint Micaiah chuckled, how could this garbage be sitting behind him? Congratulations, Lord Tianlong, for getting this big axis. As the host's voice fell, several servants carefully pushed the iron cage towards Micaiah Sheng, who had a hint of lewdness flashing in his eyes. The ability to control water, the mysterious family of the North Sea, these are not important. In the eyes of Mike Yasheng, this little girl who is already a beautiful embryo at a young age is worth far more than 10 billion Bailey. Because Saint Micaiah is a serious pedophile. Hee, this little face is really tender. Through the iron cage, Saint Micaiah's fingers pinched heavily on the little girl's face, and her tone of voice became extremely ferocious. Snapped. A slap sounded, and another big Yuhi handprint appeared on the little girl's swollen face that had already been twisted. Someone, take her to my room. For the grinning Tianlong man in front of him, no one in the room dared to stand up for justice. This is Tianlong Ren, the only nobleman in the world, who is above everyone else. Chapter 308-Death Penalty. Call out. A sudden golden beam of light pierced through the wall of the auction hall and approached Saint Micaiah's head. In just a blink of an eye, the headless corpse fell to the ground, blood mixed with brain pulp, and the stench was unpleasant. Dead, the Tianlong people are dead, someone killed the Tianlong people. The prisoners who were executed the most ferocious punishments in the world, without exception, dared to defy the existence of Tianlong people, but now, someone actually killed the Tianlong people in front of so many people. This is really heartwarming. Although they thought so in their hearts, the people present would not hesitate to confess the killer when facing the Navy's interrogation, because they also called themselves superiors. Big brother. In the cage, the little girl's eyes were already blurred by tears, and she couldn't see who the figure that suddenly appeared beside him was, but she could feel the familiar feeling. Go, Big Brother will take you back. Lei Luo felt severe pain in his heart, and his right hand, which was filled with golden light, gently stroked the little girl Yuhi's swollen face. This is a hand that is different from Saint Micaiah. It is so warm, so reliable, so... Soon, the little girl fell asleep after a long absence. Crunch. Master Yi casually slashed the iron cage with a sword, and then his eyes swept coldly across the faces of everyone present. None of these people who came to participate in the auction was not the perpetrator of this tragedy. Go back first. Lei Luo suppressed the anger in his heart, picked up the little girl, turned around and walked out of the auction room. Who is that man? Whoever he is, report it to the Navy now, or you and I will be implicated. Last time, the Tianlong people incident 2 years ago, I didn't expect it to be staged again this time. If you die, you will die, anyway, I'm still alive. The cold words that kept coming from his ears made Lei Luo's heart grow more and more angry. He turned around and glared at everyone, but he did not choose to take action. Only Master Yi and Analu turned into 2 rays of light and left first. The terrifying cold killing intent, the evil eyes of the gorilla Yuhi. He is the Admiral Evil Eye Lei Luo. General Lei Luo, I have followed your instructions, and I have finished. After Gedges hummed a few times, the rich oxygen shield wrapped all the guests and the host present. You take her out first, and by the way, help the 2 of them later. Yes. After seeing Gedges walking out of the auction room with the little girl in his arms, Lei Luo looked down at everyone present. Why did the pirate Straw Hat Luffy beat up the Tianlong Ren 2 years ago, and now Lei Luo, the evil eye of the Navy Admiral, directly killed him? The kid who just left said he was done. What did he do? Wait a minute, why does the stone in Lei Luo's hand look so familiar? Holy crap, isn't that the blasting rock just auctioned off? Goodbye. Lei Luo smiled coldly, crushed the protective device of the blasting rock, and threw it into the oxygen hood built by Gedges. Boom. The deafening loud noise mixed with the sky-high firelight spread on the number 1 island. Fortunately, it was protected by sword energy and thunder, which did not affect innocent passers-by and surrounding buildings. Naval Headquarters. Lei Luo, do you know what you are doing? The furious Akainu threw a thick stack of documents directly in front of Lei Luo, with the words Yuhi inscribed on the world government's 5 old stars negotiating and condemning Lei Luo to death. Lei Luo was already mentally prepared for the fate of the Tianlongren, but what he did not expect was that the 5 old stars would act so decisively, even if the Navy was at a disadvantage in the face of the pirates and the Revolutionary Army. To put his general-level combat power to death. Hey, Lei Luo, where are you going? Akainu looked at Lei Luo, who turned and left after finishing the documents in front of him, and yelled angrily. According to the procedure, tomorrow is my execution day. Don't worry, I will not escape. Lei Luo turned around and left, leaving Akainu alone, silently burning the documents in his hand. The next day, at the center of the Great Route, the peak of the Yuhi continent, the Holy Land Marijoa. At this moment, there are countless strongmen and reporters from all over the world, and the scene is far more magnificent than the award ceremony of the 4 major naval admirals. However, the protagonist this time is only Lei Luo, and Lei Luo is still standing upright on the execution platform wearing a sea-floor stone bracelet. What is that kid doing? Why is this happening all of a sudden? Carp and Sengoku clenched their fists. They didn't expect that Lei Luo, who has always acted steadily, would make such a reckless move. As an admiral of the Navy, killing the world's famous rich people directly in front of everyone's eyes is already a capital crime, but if Akainu and others plead for him, they are still in the position of admiral, and there is still a chance to make a contribution to the crime. However, Lei Luo killed a Tianlong man. Even if the entire Navy wrote to him, it would not be able to change the order of the world government. Will killing Lei Luo remove the anger of the Tianlong people? The answer is definitely no, because in the document Akainu gave to Lei Luo, it was clearly stated that Tina and Lei Ju, who were Lei Luo's spouses, would also be imprisoned in the great undersea prison for life. 5 minutes to the execution. Lei Luo, do you have anything to say? Akainu sighed. This is the only candidate he sees as the future successor of his naval marshal. Boom. Before Lei Luo could speak, a golden light penetrated the thick smoke floating in the air, and Kizaru pinned the furious Smog to the ground. Smog, what is there to discuss tomorrow? Kizaru leaned down and whispered in Smoker's ear. Marijoa is the residence of the Tianlong people, and the world government is also here. If Smoker dares to make trouble, then the Navy will lose another lieutenant general. Lei Luo, why the fuck are you doing this? Smog, who was stubbornly suppressed by Kizaru, hated his incompetence at the moment, and could only roar at Lei Luo's incompetence. Why does Lei Luo's fault have to implicate Tina? Why? Looking at the figure of Yiren bound by iron chains in the distance, Smog wished that the criminal who killed the Tianlong people was himself, not Lei Luo. If he could give up everything just to bear everything for Lei Luo. Release Tina from imprisonment. On the execution platform, Lei Luo's life and death were still indifferent. His eyes glanced at the furious Smog, and then swept over the sad faces of Akainu, Kyabu, Carp, Sengoku and others, and looked back again. He looked at Tina and Reiju in the distance behind him, and finally looked at the crowd from all over the world in front of him. Those ugly faces are really disgusting. Chapter 309-New Force. Hey, everyone listen to Lao Su. Lei Luo's sudden roar made the entire Marijoa quiet for a moment. The last words of a generation of young people deserve to be carefully listened to by all. In this world, there are good and evil, but what is good and what is evil? I have seen the Straw Hats fighting to protect ordinary people, and I have seen the Navy oppressing the masses, and I have personally killed the ultimate oppressor, Tianlongren, who is above the Navy, pirates, and everyone else. Quote, I am now sentenced to death by the world government, but I do not regret it, because what I have done is absolute justice. The world is being shrouded in a shadow at the moment, each of us is a caged bird, let those high above the Tianlong people wantonly crushed and played. When Just 1 minute later, a long bell sounded. This is the bell that represents the beginning of the execution. Why the bell rang earlier is clear to everyone present, because what Lei Luo said is the truth. The world government and Tianlong people will never allow anyone to expose them in front of the whole world in order to consolidate their status and interests. The essence. Just as the specially made spear in the executioner's hand was about to insert into Lei Luo's body, two figures suddenly rushed out of the crowd. The long sword in their hands was at the thunder spear, and they easily stopped the spear that ended Lei Luo's life. Who are you who dare to undermine the world government's highest execution? The Admiral Akainu's eyes sank, Conqueror's haki opened instantly, and the 2-meter executioner fell to the ground. For Akainu's actions, Lei Luo just smiled and expressed his gratitude. The era of great peace in my mouth is an era of equality for everyone and an era of no class. When the words fell, Lei Luo suddenly broke free from the Halu stone handcuffs. His figure flashed, and a shadow clone turned into golden light and rushed beside Tina and Leiju. The 5 old stars above the tall buildings, the slightly raised corners of his mouth contained extreme contempt. Suddenly, the sky at the top of the high-rise building suddenly changed, and a huge slash was born between the lightning and thunder, and it appeared in front of Lei Luo in an instant. Seeing this, Lei Luo did not dodge, but raised his right hand with a fist, and armament haki instantly covered it and greeted him without fear. Boom! 2 powerful forces collided, and the aftermath of the energy was unbearable even in space. The gust of wind that was aroused sent all the weak and weak. Even if it was a lieutenant general, it was difficult to stand firm. Is it finally here? Lei Luo, who crushed the slash with his right fist and claws, said slowly, looking at the 5 old men in black suits who appeared in the air. Lei Luo, Lord Yimu has given the final order, you must kill him. Among the 5 old stars, the old man with long white hair and beard said, and at the same time, the conqueror's haki, who crushed everything, fell on Lei Luo's shoulders like Mount High. Good guy, these old things are really powerful. Lei Luo, who had stabilized his body, was just about to fight back, but a crisis warning came from observation haki in his mind, and the direction was diagonally behind him. Damn guy, actually planning to attack Reiju and Tina. Susano, turn it on. Wizard Godzilla Sage Mode, turn on. 2 behemoths filled with terrifying aura appeared out of thin air. The supreme pressure passed over everyone's heart and could not be dispelled. The 2 pairs of gorilla yuhi eyes with 9 pitch-black tomo on top of the giants made the 5th old man even worse. Star locked in the sky. Cap, Sengoku, Akainu, Kizaru, don't you plan to take action? Is the Navy raising you for watching? Suddenly, a calm and majestic voice sounded, not loud, but enough for everyone to hear clearly. I am. For this mysterious existence, Lei Luo is also very curious about his true identity, but he needs to find out next time. After all, Lei Luo didn't want to fight against this group of people who had been procrastinating for him. Bye-bye. Lei Luo grinned at Wu Laoxing, and fluttered away with the 4 of them. Want to go? I really think the old man is a vegetarian. 8-footed Joan Tomo. Kizaru, who had let go of Smog, jumped up, and in his shining body, countless light bullets came in like a torrential rain, heading straight for Lei Luo. Meteor Volcano. Akainu, whose body was turned into lava, slammed into the air with a punch, and the huge fist condensed from the hot magma instantly raised the temperature of Marihoa by several degrees. At this moment, Sengoku also folded his hands together, the Buddha form opened, and the shock wave burst out from his palms. As for Garp, it will never be so fancy, and the iron fist wrapped in black light is his deadliest move. Ming Dog. As the current marshal of the Navy, Akainu made another move, and at the same time there was Kizaru's light speed kick. Holy crap, the four of them are here for real. Feeling the huge energy aura behind him, Lei Luo was shocked. But for some reason, facing the siege of the four peak powerhouses, Lei Luo's observation haki gave him a hint to escape in a straight line, without any dodging and defense. PFF'd. Lei Luo just suddenly increased the speed to the limit, and behind him came the sound of vomiting blood one after another. Damn, let that kid escape. Sengoku, who was rubbing his face, was still in the form of a big Buddha, but the huge fist marks were the faces of the 5 old stars with gloomy faces. It turned out that after Lei Luo suddenly accelerated, Kizaru's light speed kick hit Garp. Garp's iron fist landed on Sengoku's face, and Sengoku, who was unable to stand still, slammed into the 5 old stars at the same time. The huge body smashed the execution platform, causing the direction of the red dog to deviate, and it happened to hit the yellow monkey into the building in the distance. What is this? Acting out. Why didn't the 4 of you make your debut? What happened just now may not seem unusual to ordinary people, but in front of someone with slightly stronger strength, they would never believe that the top 4 major forces in the Navy would make such an oolong act. Event. Everything, obviously, they agreed with Lei Luo's idea and did it on purpose. Come on, take 4 high-ranking Navy officers down to heel. Im's flat voice sounded, as if he didn't care about what was happening in front of him. Oh, that's right. Suddenly, the figure of Lei Luo flew back. In the past few days, I will establish a new naval force in the East China Sea called the Alliance of Peacekeepers. Everyone is welcome to join us. After the words fell, Lei Luo turned into a golden light and disappeared, but his words were spread throughout the world through live broadcast. Alliance of Peacemakers. The 4 Garps smiled at each other, and looked at the direction of the East China Sea. Chapter 310-Hope. Lei Luo, this word originally only represented the strong in the pirates and the Navy, is now spread throughout the world, whether it is a Tianlong person, an ordinary person, or a Murloc family, everyone is Akatsuki. The Alliance of Peacekeepers, a group that strives to build an era of great peace that ignores race and class, has also become a destination for everyone. The sea above Fishman Island. What? You promised to join us, how can you suddenly go back on it? Is it because we are going to fight the BIGMOM pirates? Luffy, who hugged Jinbei tightly, couldn't understand why he suddenly changed his mind. Elsewhere, Nami put down the newspaper in her hand and stepped forward to punch Luffy in the head. Jinbei, we will respect your decision, after all, that place has the same aspirations as Princess Otoheim. Thank you. After watching the Straw Hats leave, Jinbei turned around, and in the east where the sun was rising, he seemed to see the old empress who represented kindness in the past. On the Wanli sunshine at this moment, Saro and Sanji, who have always been quarreling, actually had a long-lost tranquility. Hey, Stinky Cook, does that Wenshike family have anything to do with you? Well, my former home. Facing Solo's sudden questioning, Sanji just took a deep puff of cigarette and talked about his childhood. So, the only thing I care about is my sister, which means that Lei Luo should be my brother-in-law now. Solo, who was short-circuited by these emotional problems, drank the wine in his hand, chose not to say anything, and just quietly accompanied Sanji. Livzauto, to be honest, this meeting, I already know the gap between me and you and Luffy. Since we are going to fight with Auntie, if I die, will you feel bored? Suddenly, Sanji lit another cigarette, looked at the calm sea, and said slowly. Che, if you die, will it affect me becoming the world's #1 swordsman? That's it, that's good. I hope you can get your wish in the future. When I defeat Hawkeye, I'll go to Allbule when I'm bored, and see if that Sea of Legends really exists. But then, what would you do if I died? I continue to look for my sea of legends, but in the process, I will let Frankie build me a knife, and then by the way defeat Hokage to become the #1 swordsman. East China Sea. With the arrival of Lei Luo, the East China Sea has become the hottest area in the Four Seas, and a large number of people have found the island with the flag of peace. Not good. Admiral Fujitora is here with more than a dozen warships. Gorgeous ran in front of Lei Luo, who was fishing, and said in a panic. The next moment, on the deck of the lead warship, there appeared a figure that all navies were once very familiar with. Fujitora, long time no see. Lei Luo was unprepared, as if he was still an admiral of the navy, and then moved a chair and sat beside Fujitora. On this warship, there are many familiar faces of him. Those people are all the old men who had been born and died with him in the North Sea. Fujitora's trip was obviously in a certain name to send people for him. Hey, at least you can show it to the people above, otherwise it will be difficult for me and Marshal Akainu to deal with it. Ha ha ha, I don't care about this. What you want is your answer. It turned out that before Lei Luo set off on the moon to find Analu, he had a long talk with Fujitora, and each explained his own understanding of true peace. In the end, the two came to the same conclusion that only by eliminating discrimination between classes and races can the so-called true peace be achieved. As long as there is enough time, you and I will sooner or later establish an era of peace in our hearts, and now you are not so adventurous, even at the risk of disrupting the entire world. Fujitora said earnestly. He didn't want a person who shared his ideals to disappear like this. Hearing this, Lei Luo just smiled. With the existence of Tianlong people, Lord Yimu and the 5 old stars, the identity of the navy alone is not enough to establish peace. This world is bound by a disordered rule, and underneath it is endless chaos. Since you want to change everything, you must jump out of it. Only in this way can you shake the deep-rooted ancient tree. Why don't you do it like this? You and I bet once, if the number you roll is bigger than me, then someone will give it to you. I will go. If the number you roll is smaller than me, then you will go with me. Of course, if the number is if it's even, let's go to war. After the words fell, Fujitora took out 2 sieve cups from nowhere, each with a dice. Fujitora likes to gamble, and every gamble will be lost. Lei Luo is very clear about this. Lei Luo will naturally not refuse his kindness. Dang 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 dang. After looking at the numbers under the sieves, Fujitora didn't show any expression, just looked at Lei Luo quietly. Fujitora, it's 5 o'clock, so I'll take people away. Thank you for your hard work this time. Lei Luo laughed and waved to the anxious group of people in the distance, then said goodbye and walked off the warship. Whoosh. The moment Lei Luo just set foot on the island, there was a sudden sound of breaking wind behind him. This sieve of yours is for you. It wasn't until Fujitora left with all the warships and disappeared into the sea that Lei Luo opened his palm with lingering fear. Subconsciously, he seemed to have used too much force to take the sieve, and the creaking sound seemed to be broken. Don't worry, I will definitely do what I said that day. Lei Luo looked at the sieve with the case removed in his hand and said softly. He already knew what these people meant. It was still a sieve, but it was a sieve made of ice cubes. On top of it, there was 1 point in the shape of a pitch-black fist, 2 points formed by 2 Buddhas, 3 points formed by 3 points of golden light, and 4 trees. There are 4 dots made of grass, 5 dots dotted with lava, and 6 dots where the word, full, can be vaguely seen at the end. If Shanks broke his arm to save Luffy at that time and pressed him on the New World, then now, Lei Luo alone, the entire navy is in order to realize the hope of peace. Master Lei Luo, you fell into a big fish. No, it should be a dragon to be exact. Just as Gedges had just finished these words, thunder suddenly broke out in the air, and dark clouds rolled over the surface, which seemed to herald the coming of a storm. This most ferocious dragon in the world will be our most powerful ally. Chapter 311-Whitebeard Remnant. With the passage of time, more and more strong people gathered on the island. Among them, Lei Luo was most surprised by Smog, who blatantly announced his withdrawal from the navy. As for why the world government has always let the Peacemakers alliance go unchecked, this is only a superficial phenomenon, and there will be some small moves secretly. After all, once the 5 old stars ordered a large-scale war, it would definitely cause dissatisfaction and protests from the masses. Just imagine, once this happens, people's definition of the alliance of peacekeepers will inevitably surpass the world government. If Lei Luo reaches an agreement with the leader of the Revolutionary Army, then the world will really change. However, what the 5 old stars did not expect was that the alliance of peacemakers and the Revolutionary Army had long since formed an alliance. The former was responsible for dealing with pirates and the navy, while the latter promoted the idea of freedom and equality. Ding! System task trigger. Destroy the legend. Destroy the legend. For every 4 Emperor pirates killed, you will get a God-level lottery point *1, and if you kill one of the 4 Emperors, you will get a God-level lottery point *1. This is the task issued by the system last month, and the content makes Lei Luo very big. Originally intending to develop in a wicked way in the East China Sea, he spent a few years to create an army of Grandmaster the 8 Inner Gates fully dressed in combat uniforms, but he received the task of fighting the 4 Emperors. Moreover, what left Lei Luo speechless the most was that in this mission, one of the 4 Emperors had to be killed within 3 months before the battle could follow, otherwise it would be considered a mission failure. The 100 Beasts pirate ship, the captain is Guy, and the bounty is as high as 4.6111 billion. There is no need to say much about its strength. Even if you don't say anything about Guy, each of the 6 Linkong sons under his command has a bounty of over 100 million, and above them, there are 3 more terrifying disasters, and the bounty starts at 1 billion. Yuhi's pirates, Captain Shanks, has a bounty of 4.0489 billion Bailey, and this is only the Navy's estimate. After all, Yuhi's is not the kind of existence that harms one party everywhere like Guy. In addition, the difference between the Yuhi pirates and the 100 Beasts pirates, as well as the combat power and number of cadres, it is no exaggeration to say that the 7 highest level cadres of the Yuhi pirates have no real battles. Libby's 3 disasters are definitely beyond compare. The BIGMOM pirates, captained by Charlotte Lingling, has a bounty of 4.388 billion. Although her strength may be much worse than the above 2, her devil fruit ability is definitely the most difficult and deadly. Moreover, Auntie has many children. Although the top cadre, Desert Zhongxing, is slightly less powerful, but because of the relationship of marriage, Auntie's sphere of influence is still the most extensive emperor. In this way, my goal seems clear. That's right, after thinking for a while, Lei Luo locked his ultimate goal on the Blackbeard pirates. As the most established 4 emperors, Blackbeard's bounty is only half of the other 3 emperors, and his crew members are all bounty before reaching the 100 million level, so don't be imprisoned in the underwater prison, presumably in terms of strength not to be afraid either. The most important point is that when Blackbeard became the 4th emperor, he stepped on the shoulders of the Whitebeard pirates, and this can completely make up for the lack of fighters for Lei Luo. An island in the New World in the second half of the Great Route. Lei Luo came here alone, looking at the tombs of Whitebeard and Ace in front of him, and just sighed silently. Whitebeard, as a remnant of Roger's era, Ace, as Roger's son, the existence of the 2 of them, in the final analysis, is to promote the arrival of a new era. Hey boy, get out of the way and leave us alone. That's right, people who used to be in the Navy are not welcome here. Looking at the sound, Lei Luo's heart was filled with anger, but more helplessness. Those who speak vulgarly are all the remnants of the Whitebeard pirates, the big names in the New World, but now, they are living a life of drunkenness and dreaming all day long, relying on the effect of alcohol to numb their nerves. No wonder you were defeated by Blackbeard, and you want to come. Go away. Before Lei Luo could finish speaking, a blond man in his 40s picked up the wine bottle beside him and smashed it. Blackbeard touches the source of anger in each of them. It's ridiculous. Margao, who is known as the Phoenix, is also a waste in the end. It's a pity that Whitebeard still regarded you as the most cherished family members before his death. I think that except for Ace, every one of you present is garbage and unworthy of it. Called the son of Whitebeard. Lei Luo's tone was full of sarcasm and ridicule, but it seemed that Tick was not mentioned this time, and Margao and his party did not respond, and they were even scolded so willingly. His brother was killed by another brother, and then the most respected father in his life was also the head of the dead and that person. In the end, they wanted to avenge the two, but they found that they were not opponents at all, and they suffered a disastrous defeat. And also made the other party become the Emperor of the Sea in one fell swoop with the help of this understanding. Such a ridiculous experience happened to the alcoholics in front of them. A series of blows had already made them not know how to face the world. Now I have already quit the Navy and established the Peacemaker Alliance. This time, I want to invite you to join my alliance and destroy the Blackbeard pirates with me. Lei Luo said tentatively again, but the only response to him was the empty wine bottle that followed, and the cold angry gaze. It seems that the Whitebeard is really old. It's okay to have a bad brain, and my eyes are still blind. Otherwise, how can I recognize you scumbags as sons? After being rejected over and over again, Lei Luo didn't bother to continue wasting time here, but just as he said a word and was about to leave, there was a sudden gust of wind breaking behind him. Boom! Lei Luo didn't do any dodge, but chose to cast iron blocks to resist the person's sneak attack. If you say something bad about Dad again, I will tear your mouth apart. Now get out. The unpleasant smell of alcohol lingered in the sky. Lei Luo, who frowned slightly, glanced at the Yuhi-looking Margao who appeared beside him, and a thought was born in his heart. Since you can't wake up, wake up. However, we must first use words to stimulate the fighting spirit in Margot's heart. You've been with Whitebeard for 30 years. You've learned this over the years. It seems that Whitebeard is not as powerful as I thought. Oh, by the way, Whitebeard must have been beaten by 1010. Otherwise he wouldn't have so many scars on his body, and he even called it a sign that he never ran away. Chapter 312-Condition. Did you go back to your hometown to be a doctor in the name of protecting Whitebeard's legacy after you ran out of money to buy alcohol for a while? Lei Luo is completely the plot of the original book, but it is set at this time. The ridicule is obviously far better than filial piety and gratitude, especially when his tone suddenly changes to surprise. Ah, I forgot, the son is like the father. What kind of thing a father is, you can tell from the son. The Whitebeard never escapes. I think it's all giving up. The wound in front of him is scratched by himself, huh? What about you, Margao? From Lei Luo's mouth, sentence after sentence of ridicule towards the Whitebeard popped out. At this moment, not only Margao, who had his back to him, but even other people stood up and glared at Lei Luo. If eyes can kill, Lei Luo can say without hesitation that he has been killed tens of thousands of times by the group of people in front of him. Sure enough, Daddy was a coward. Don't you even have the courage to take action against me? Lei Luo sneered, and between the slowly raised right hand, a laser light gradually condensed, and the target was Whitebeard's tomb. Call out. The golden light flickered and was fleeting, but the final result was not the collapse of the tomb, but the splash of blood. Looking at Margao, who was seriously injured by relying on his body to forcibly take the blow, Lei Luo couldn't figure out why he didn't use the ability of Devil Fruit to heal himself. Could it be that his power of regeneration was taken away by Blackbeard? You know, the current Blackbeard pirates are very famous hunters. The ability of the stealth fruit was forcibly plundered by them. Lei Luo suddenly thought of something, and another laser beam shot out, and the target was still Whitebeard's tomb, but the result was still the same. Marco used his own flesh and blood to block the blow. In that case, Lei Luo smiled. This time, the laser light was still aimed at Whitebeard's tomb, but just as it was about to touch Marco, the golden light suddenly turned and shot towards Ace's tomb. Boom! With this loud noise, Ace's tomb shattered, revealing Ace lying quietly in it with a big hole in his chest. Bastard, I'm going to kill you. Seeing that his brother's tomb was destroyed, Margao roared, and his original body was replaced by blue flames between the mortal and the breath, and even his form became the structure of a bird. Whoosh! Margao's speed is extremely fast as a blue lightning, but no matter how fast the lightning is, how can it be compared with light? Lei Luo, who easily avoided the blow, saw a claw burning with blue flames, constantly magnifying in his own eyes. This is the performance of observation Hokage being suppressed and his next move being predicted by the opponent. Raising his hand suddenly, Lei Luo, who received Margao's blow, only felt that his arm was cut with a blade, and the pain caused by the torn muscles made him gasp in breath. Golden Light Curse. Lei Luo, who was accidentally injured, directly used the Golden Light spell to protect his body, which made him start to pay attention to the shadows behind him. After all, he didn't want to end up being surrounded by everyone. Too slow. Haven't you eaten? Is this what Whitebeard taught? It's the same trash as him. Lei Luo, who was dodging Margao's attack, was still relying on words to deeply stimulate the emotions of the white-bearded remnants. Only when the endless anger broke out completely, could he hope to guide them out of their self-degeneration. As his anger continued to burn, Margao's attacks became more severe and heavy. His body moves were never sloppy, and his shots were vicious and decisive. Whitebeard is an era, the most powerful and perfect man in the world. No one can slander him, not before, and not now. If there is anyone who dares to damage the reputation of Whitebeard, then the only choice is to kill Wush. Kill. Kill him. Let him kneel and apologize to Dad. Hearing the sound of killing from behind, Lei Luo didn't panic at all, just grinned, and the incomparable conqueror's Hokage was instantly released, ignoring everyone's mind. Boom, boom, boom. Watching his brothers fall to the ground one by one, Margao's alcoholism completely sobered up, and the opponent's strength is definitely at the level of the four emperors. Are you awake? If you are awake, don't sleep, and join me to fight Blackbeard Tiki. Lei Luo snapped his fingers lightly, and Margao shuddered at that moment. When he opened his eyes, he found that he was still sleeping on the ground at the beginning, and the wine bottle in his hand hadn't been thrown out. At this moment, Lei Luo, who is standing in front of everyone, has a strange red yui color in his eyes. What happened just now? Is your fruit ability? Margao, who has not yet converted from fantasy and reality, rubbed his temples. Although the alcohol had receded, the ambiguity in his mind had not disappeared for a while, which made Margao not knowing what to say for a while. Yes, I can make others dream through my fruit ability. All of you, I have cast demonic illusion. Facing the answer given by Lei Luo, Margao chose not to believe it. After all, everything that happened just now was too real, even the soreness and numbness from his hands and feet, which was obviously only after a battle situation that arises. However, when he saw that Ace's tomb had not been destroyed, he believed Lei Luo's words. You said you were going to exterminate Titch. Is this true or false? Margao suddenly asked. In this situation, he was always thinking of avenging his father and his dead brothers, but in terms of combat effectiveness, the gap between the two sides was still too huge. I need your help, whether it's collecting information about the Blackbeard pirates or during the war, so are you willing to join my Peacemaker Alliance? Lei Luo invited Margao, and at the same time, this sentence will also be used by other members who will experience various challenges in their dreams. To join or not to join, that is the question. As far as the former is concerned, there is no harm in joining the Alliance of Peacemakers, and there are even many benefits. But if you don't join, it is estimated that you will not be able to lead your remaining companions to realize the ideal of revenge. I choose to join you, but I have one request. Titch's head, we must let a few of us chop. After pondering for a while, Marco nodded. Chapter 313-Kill at a glance. On the vast expanse of the sea, a battleship with a giant log on each side is slowly moving forward. Above it, there are three slightly depressing skulls looking to the left, front, and right. And this is the latest Four Emperors force, the Blackbeard Pirates. Ha ha ha, How come the white-bearded remnants are like a clown who has been defeated by Lei Luo, the leader of the Alliance of Peacemakers? Poison Q, known as the God of Death, looked at the newspaper in his hand, and the sarcasm on his face was self-evident. It's that kid named Lei Luo again, he seems to be very active recently. On the other side, Shiliu, who was still wiping the famous sword Thunderstorm in his hand, said calmly. Lei Luo has been paid attention to by Blackbeard and his party for a long time, especially his devil fruit, which is almost identical to Kyabu, has long been regarded by Tich as a possession. But now, when they mentioned this name again, they didn't pay too much attention, and it was all because of the defeat of the Margao people. Boom! With the roar of a cannonball, the Blackbeard pirate ship shook violently, and the captains who noticed the enemy attacking flashed their extremely tacit figures and rushed to the deck. Who am I supposed to be? It turns out to be Brother Xiao Ma. Why are you so eager to give your fruit ability? The evil King Pizarro did not hide the ridicule in his heart, and the frivolous words did not put the enemy in front of him in the eyes at all. A group of remnant soldiers and defeated generals riding on the broken pirate ship. Such a combination cannot establish any relationship with the powerful, but this is still the only remnant left by Whitebeard. Tich, call him out, it's time for a showdown today. Life and death. Hearing these four funny words, the already sickly poisonous Q laughed and leaned back and forth, and even fell off the horse's back. Who gave Margot so much courage to say such a thing? Could it be that the successive defeats have made him, who used to be the best in the world, have a death-seeking mentality? Boom! A sudden small sound entered the eardrum, and a jet-black bullet appeared on the vast sea, tearing the air and other obstacles, passing through Margao's eyebrows, and behind him, the only thing the whole ship could be regarded as a complete sea. The thief flag was shot down suddenly. At this time, there was no blood flowing out of Margao's forehead, only the blue flame slowly emerged, and the wound was smoothed out in one breath, leaving no trace. Yinyu Fan Oka, you are so anxious every time. Raising his hand to catch the falling flag, the obvious cold-killing intent on Margao's face was perfectly suppressed by him. Whitebeard, in the hearts of his sons, is a myth that cannot be desecrated, but now that the flag representing Whitebeard has been shot down, Margao, who has followed Whitebeard the longest, is indifferent, which makes Lafitte feel indifferent. There was a hint of confusion and incomprehension. What is he going to do? Margot, are you in such a hurry to seek death? Just when the two sides were silent, the originally blue sea was suddenly replaced by a black tide, and in the constantly lingering black aura, there seemed to be a great gravitational force that was constantly sucking everything around. At the same time, a tall figure also appeared on the Blackbeard pirate ship, facing the opposite Margao from a distance. Tich. The appearance of this figure obviously made the expressions of the remnants of the Whitebeard pirates change suddenly, and endless anger seemed to burst out from his eyes, and it was about to burn the people in front of him to ashes. Hey, where did the smell of blood come from? Shiliu of Rain, who was obsessed with blood, moved his nose and turned his eyes to the eye-catching gorilla Yuhi in the endless darkness that spread like a spider web in the sea. On the Kuroshio, a corpse that had been corroded and only left with white bones slowly emerged. It was faintly discernible that it should be a shark like Murloc. That Muir! Mar exclaimed in a low voice. The cold-killing intent could no longer be suppressed at this moment, and he shrouded Blackbeard and the others. Namiel, the Murloc leader of the 8th team of the Whitebeard pirates, died at the hands of Tiki the Blackbeard. If you want to fight, you can fight openly. Why send a small fish to play sneak attack? Tich smiled slightly and looked at the black-robed man who was standing beside Marco and held him back. This person has a power that makes him coveted, and an aura that makes him feel dangerous. This feeling is like an old enemy of mutual growth and mutual restraint, up and down, left and right, life and death, light and darkness. Hello, Blackbeard pirates. The man with the black robe covering his face noticed his existence and was noticed by Tiki, so he simply took off his hood and greeted the entire Blackbeard pirates with a smile. Alliance of Peacemakers, Lei Luo. For a time, Blackbeard's hands were replaced by endless black gas, and Shilyu of the Rain also pulled out the thunderstorm around his waist. Even the poisonous Q, who was screaming from the pain of falling from the deck, rushed like a chicken blood on his old horse. There was no order for all the staff to be on guard, just because of that handsome boy named Lei Luo. Lei Luo, we have never had any intersection. I advise you to leave early with your people, don't make mistakes here. The figure of Lafitte with a pair of white wings suddenly stretched out from behind and suspended in the air, and the earnest voice was like Lei Luo's brain, which was full of some kind of magic, constantly pounding, and kept bewitching him. Hypnotism. Lei Luo sneered, raised his head and smiled at Lafitte. The eyes of Yuhi, the gorilla, instantly caught up with Rafit. Just a few seconds later, Lafitte's body trembled, tearing at his wings like a madman, gnawing at his own flesh and blood, letting the blood splatter and the flesh flying, and there is no sign of stopping. Boom. Finally, Lafitte, who was no longer human, was planted on the deck of the Blackbeard pirate ship. On his bloody face, there was an extremely ferocious smile, as if he was cruelly torturing others, and his heart was very happy. Seeing this, Poison Q, the ship doctor, rushed forward to check, but before he could get close, Lafitte suddenly opened his mouth with fresh flesh and made a bite at him. Complete mental breakdown and will torture himself to death soon after. The answer given by Poison Q surprised Tich and others. How could this happen suddenly? Why did Lafitte become like this? Could it be because of Lei Luo? Evil Eye General Lei Luo. Suddenly, in their hearts, the title that he had when he first knew about Lei Luo, who was still in the Navy, resounded. Chapter 314-War begins. Evil eyes, a pair of eyes of Yuhi who have never appeared in the world, the most distinctive feature of the current Admiral of the Navy, Lei Luo. The report that appeared in the newspaper at the beginning kept echoing in the minds of Tich's party. Looking at the pale-faced Blackbeards and Black Thieves, Marco smiled softly. They had all experienced the special ability of Lei Luo's eyes, but compared to Lafitte, it might be a human world. Difference from hell. One lore, yes, just one look, Lei Luo is enough to kill a powerful man who shocked the world. Sure enough, Whitebeard is right. You are really a conceited and reckless person. In this case, you have no defense. The sound that suddenly sounded in his ear made Tiki's body tremble, and the dark mist instantly shrouded his body, but what was waiting for him was not an unbearable blow, but a sharp scream around him. The sixth captain of the Blackbeard pirates, Moonkiba Hunter Carter Rin Demay's chest was pierced by a golden thunder spear. Roar. Just as Lei Luo was about to shoot at the next person, a roar sounded from his back. Looking back, there is no other cat Rin Butterfly Beauty, some just have white hair all over the body, and the cubit nine-tails fox with the silver moon logo on its forehead is glaring at Lei Luo and biting. Lei Luo, you have to pay attention. Carter Rin is the owner of the cubit nine-tails fox fruit of the animal-type phantom beast, and you must kill her 9 times to kill her. The information Margao told at that time suddenly appeared in Lei Luo's mind. A large part of the reason why the Whitebeards were defeated in the stop called the End was because Carter Rin, who had been suspended from death, suddenly burst into flames and attacked Margao seriously. Dodge to the right. Just when Lei Luo was about to continue his shot and finish off Carter Rin with only 5 tails left, Observation Haki's warning suddenly started. Roar. The cubit nine-tails fox whose left eye was scratched raised its head and roared furiously. The pain drove it to swing its sharp claws and hit the empty air somewhere without hesitation. The sound of iron objects colliding, the appearance of sparkling sparks unreasonably, and there is only one sentence that can explain all this. Shilyu of the Rain, the transparent fruit ability. What are you waiting for to solve Lei Luo? Now whoever is fighting, I will kill whoever. Tiki's angry voice sounded, and at this moment, the black tide surged on the sea, turning into a huge wave and rushing towards Margao and his party. Hatred, jealousy, fear, anxiety. In the Kuroshio, all kinds of negative emotions are constantly pouring out, and that strong gravitational force is constantly absorbing everyone's thoughts, even if they know that they enter the Kuroshio and end up only being turned into powder, but still unable to suppress the inner despair. Damn, it's this trick again. Margao snorted angrily. In order to prevent himself from being impressed by the ability of the dark fruit again, he had been prepared to directly break his elbow and use the pain to wake himself up. However, the reason why Margao dared to do this is because he has the ability to regenerate infinitely, others do not. At this critical moment of life and death, a thunder light suddenly pierced the Kuroshio and shone on the bow of the Whitebeard pirates. It was the second thunder and lightning that emerged, and then gradually spread, with tens of thousands of thunders crashing. Blast, and completely shred the Kuroshio wave. Boss, here we are. The people who came out of the negative emotions only saw a large number of men and horses in specially made battle uniforms on a ship with the word, peace, written in the distance. Thunder around the body, even if it is not shot, it is enough to imagine the strength of the two. Margao, the one who uses the sword is called Yi, and the one who saves you is called Anilu. These cadres are handed over to me, and the others are handed over to my people and yours. As for Tiki, I will meet your requirements. Lei Luo waved his hand, and countless golden lights converged into 3 barriers, dividing the battlefield into 3 areas. This battle is the first battle against the 4 emperors, and also the first battle of the peace army under his command. Although the full version of the technical combat suit has not yet been mass-produced, the bloodline factor cloning technology has not yet been implemented, and the 8 Inner Gates is a newcomer to all talents. But Lei Luo has sufficient confidence, because in Blackbeard's team, there is still one strongest person who has not appeared, and that is the former Admiral of the Navy, Aoki. After fighting for so long, eat an apple. Oh, thank you. With a backhand laser cannon, Fan Oka, who was hiding in the dark, raised his gun and smashed Lei Luo into pieces. Suddenly, someone next to him handed over a big and charming Yuhi apple. However, just as the sweet juice and fresh flesh touched Lei Luo's mouth, in his eyes looking at the poisonous Q in front of him, there seemed to be 2 words written, fuck. Boom. A blast sounded, and the apple in Lei Luo's hand exploded. How could the experienced cadres miss such a good opportunity? Sharp claws, heavy punches, and long knives followed one after another. While extremely fast, they were not lacking in formidable power. All of them were blasted into the smoke. The powerful anti-shock force made even Shiryu of the Rain almost unable to cover them. Stop the famous sword thunderstorm in your hand. The smoke drifted away, and Lei Luo, who was white and black on his face, silently watched the poisonous Q floating in the air with horror in his eyes. What ability is the rib surrounded by black flames? Where did the hand bone that was about to be crushed to death by poison Q come from? You can force me to use Susanoo, your strength is not bad, but why did not one person break the 100 million bounty? While waiting for Lei Luo to finish speaking, a palm the size of a boat suddenly stretched out from under the sea, and slapped Susanoo heavily. With that ruthless force, Lei Luo was lifted into the air in an instant. The shells generally drew a wave of dozens of meters long on the sea surface. PFF'd. Lei Luo, who had just stabilized his body, spit out a mouthful of blood, and even Susanoo's ribs had tiny cracks. With the physical body alone, without the blessing of the devil fruit and domineering, such a terrifying force can burst out. There is only one person in the world. Lei Luo looked up, only showing his head and 1/3 of his upper body. The figure that was already the size of a small mountain was the one who injured him. Captain of the 7th Blackbeard Pirates, the Wolf of San Juan. Hey, where did you go just now? Do you know that my bones are about to be crushed by him? The poisonous Q with a lifeless face collapsed on the deck, complaining to the wolf with a cry in his voice. Sorry, I fell asleep after eating too much, ha 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 ha. Chapter 315_Flee in Embarrassment. Boom. After the silly laugh, the wolf slammed his fist into the wall of light that Lei Luo had set up earlier, and shattered it with just one blow. It looks like you've been beaten in the face. Lei Luo looked at this scene and smiled embarrassingly. It seemed that he still underestimated the combat power of the Blackbeard pirates. In the face of a giant with terrifying brute strength, it is obviously not the best choice to fight with one's own small body. Therefore, the Godzilla Sage mode is turned on. Roar. With the sound of a long beast roar, everyone in the battle turned their attention to the location of Lei Luo, which was a phantom of a monster surrounded by Yuhi Lotus. What kind of monster is that? Whether it was the Justice League, Margot and his party, or the Blackbeard pirates, they were all shocked. They had never seen this monster with an aura of ultimate destruction all over its body. Brother Yi, tell everyone to evacuate. The first to return to God, Anilu hurriedly turned into Thor, grabbed the soldiers of the Peacemaker Alliance beside him, turned into a thunderous light and passed away. The destructive power possessed by Lei Luo in the form of Godzilla is beyond the imagination of human beings. Taking advantage of the crowd's evacuation, the half-black, half-Yuhi gigantic phantom kept compressing and staring, and was finally taken back into the body by Lei Luo. At this time, his skin had completely turned into the appearance of Yuhi Lotus, and the stream beneath it was flowing. The muscles and veins of the violent blood, like the terrifying power, can be seen at a glance. Woo! A breath of steaming white air was exhaled from Lei Luo's mouth with a low sullen roar. The unbearable high temperature made the sea boil. However, the most frightening thing was that when he opened his eyes again, the endless flowing firelight replaced his eyes, and the rich and terrifying aura of destruction instantly filled the world. Without the slightest sound, the figure of Lei Luo suddenly appeared in front of the wolf. Hey, big guy, do you know how much pain you made me just now? Boom. The simple and unpretentious fist swiped, without half the power, and even hit the wolf with no pain or itch. Is this kid bluffing? Seeing that Lei Luo's attack was completely different from the aura surrounding him, Shi Liu and the others couldn't help frowning, but even so, they still didn't let their guard down. Hey, the cadres of the peacekeepers, your leader will not find out that he is defeated, so he pretends to be like this, intending to scare off the Blackbeard pirates. That's right, since you're going to escape, don't take us with you, we're going to avenge Dad. Hearing the clamor of the crowd around him, Anilu gave them a blank look, and Master Yi shook his head helplessly. This is the sadness of the weak. They cannot understand or feel what the strong do. Boom. Sensing that something was wrong, Tich's arm shook, and the space in front of him suddenly vibrated at an extremely fast frequency, and then it exploded, dividing him and Margao. Qingzi, you still haven't shot. Blackbeard's roar resounded across the sea, and the hidden fear instantly overturned the suspicion of the weak. Swish. A biting cold wind suddenly hit, and the originally clear sky suddenly rolled with dark clouds, and crystal snowflakes fell from the sky, landing on the sea. When snowflakes meet water, they should melt, but these snowflakes are not like this, but the moment they touch the sea, they disintegrate in an instant, releasing ultra-low temperatures at the absolute zero level. Everything on it freezes. A single thought is enough to change the climate and environment, and a cold figure suddenly appeared in everyone's mind, the former Admiral Aokiku Kuzan. What are you guys waiting for? The wolf is dead, so why don't you take this opportunity to escape? Seeing that his cadres actually surrounded Lei Luo, whose body was covered with a layer of hoarfrost, Blackbeard cursed angrily. These idiots, haven't they discovered that the frozen Lei Luo is just an afterimage? You want to leave the Ice Age with just one move by Qingzi, isn't that taking me too seriously? Ah! A bleak scream came, and the coquettish Kyubi, Nine-Tails fox was instantly ignited by flames. On top of its head, stood Lei Luo looking down at everyone. Kyubi, Nine-Tails fox, born Kyubi, Nine-Tails, has 9 lives, but Carter Rin, who has 5 tails left, turned into a charred skeleton in an instant, covered by ice. Lei Luo, if you continue to shoot, Margao will die because of you. Seeing his subordinates being killed one by one, Tiki's figure appeared in front of Margao, who was accidentally frozen into an ice sculpture. He only needed to squeeze so lightly, and another torn corpse would be added to the ice layer. Call out. Lei Luo raised his hand, and a golden beam shot out, smashing the head of Fan Oka who was fleeing at the end. You can try moving it. This is Lei Luo's answer. He hates being threatened the most. Since someone does this, let's compare who has more chips. With the death of a companion, Shiliu and the others did not dare to look back. In the battle just now, none of them used all their strength. The purpose was to test Lei Luo's strength first, but who would have thought that this kid didn't play cards according to common sense, and he would make a big move when he came up. The shaking fruit ability was activated, and the space in Blackbeard's palm continued to vibrate, and that hand was getting closer and closer to Margao. At this moment, he deeply understood that if he was the one who was timid first, he would end up with no escape. Hey! Lei Luo sighed, raised his hand with 2 more laser beams, and then said, I said, you better not move. You. Looking at Pizarro and Chote who had completely lost their vitality, Blackbeard finally chose to compromise. Seeing this, Lei Luo scorned the Blackbeard below and just flicked his finger with a chuckle, and the ice sculpture that blocked Margao was cracked inch by inch. However, at the moment Margao was unblocked, a blue bird completely carved out of ice appeared out of thin air in front of Lei Luo. This is one of the green pheasant's unique tricks. Come on. Tiki didn't dare to hesitate for a second, and the shaking fruit ability was activated instantly. With him as the center, all the ice layers began to shake, and the frequency became faster and faster. With a loud bang, the ice age shattered, bursts of turbulent waves slapped the sea recklessly, and an earth-shattering tsunami hit in an instant. After a long time, the wind and waves were calm, and there were only 2 ships covered with golden light and a somewhat dissatisfied figure left on the sea. Che, are you still getting away? But, Tich, you have to remember that when you meet me next time, you won't be so lucky. Boss, where's the blonde guy? Chapter 316_Ming's defeat. Boss, where's the blonde guy? After surviving the tsunami caused by Tiki without any risk, Analu's exclamation suddenly came. Blonde guy. No, little brother. Suddenly finding that the sea below was empty, Lei Luo's figure instantly turned into a golden light and shot straight to the bottom of the sea. You guys go back first, I have something to look for some old friends. After a long time, Lei Luo, who stuck his head out of the sea, looked coldly at the place where Tich was before. There was no trace of Margot in the depths of the sea, so there was only one possibility. Tich just took advantage of the chaos and took Margot to escape. On the second day, the Navy headquarters released a major news that shocked the whole world. People like Akainu are really boring, and they finally gave me a life card of Aokiji. Lei Luo, who returned to the base camp, complained a few words, carefully put the small card in his hand into his pocket, and then turned his eyes to the calendar on the wall. However, when Lei Luo saw today's date, he always felt that something important was about to happen today. Boss, Haisha Jinping is here to visit. Under the guidance of Gedges, Jinping with a worried look walked up to Lei Luo. Jinpei, didn't I send Tina and Reiju to guard Fishman Island, why are you so panicked? For some reason, Lei Luo always felt that Shi Ping's visit this time had something to do with the unease in his heart. Lei Luo leader, the Straw Hats fought against Doflamingo in Dressrosa, I hope you can help. Jinbei knelt down in front of Lei Luo with a plop. The Straw Hats had a big favor in reshaping the entire Fishman Island. He would never turn a blind eye to the lives and deaths of Luffy and others, but the Fishman Island still needed his protection. Luffy versus Ming brother. Before Lei Luo could clarify his intentions, a thunderstorm burst into the room, filled with silent anger. This person is Analu. Well, the thing that I feared the most still happened. Lei Luo himself did not expect that when he was still an admiral of the Navy, he had promised Ainilu that he would want Luffy to settle accounts, but later luck made people, especially now that the alliance of peacekeepers is still friendly with the Revolutionary Army. Nelahu comes, and the consequence must be that the former allies meet with each other. That's all, Analu, this time you go with me. Maybe you will see some things before your thoughts will improve. At this moment, Dressrosa, Gates, who is the live commentator of the arena, is running wildly with a weak Luffy on his back. In the shrinking birdcage, the ordinary people headed by Frankie relied on the Kalushi castle and tried their best to prevent the birdcage from shrinking. On the other side, Zoro and Fujitora were all too. It is so. A group of defeated soldiers, just want to die. Brother Ming sneered, and the surrounding buildings slowly blurred into sharp threads, covering the warriors who came to stop him in the shape of a giant net. A tragic cry of grief continued, but Brother Ming did not stop. The speed of the bird cage's contraction was also increasing. Everyone's life was at stake, but Luffy's distance could be restored. Hey, kill her, Rebecca. There are countless transparent silk threads on Mingji's fingertips. While binding Viola in front of him, he is also urging the long knife in Rebecca's hand to continuously approach Viola's heart. No, who can help me? Rebecca desperately tried to stop her advancing body, but she tried her best, but it didn't help. She could only watch the tip of the knife get closer and closer to Viola's chest. Snapped. At this critical moment, a sturdy figure sprang out from an extremely tricky angle, smashing the long knife in Rebecca's hand with one end. Lucy. At that moment, the entire Dressrosa was shouting the name of this man. This is the hope of all of them, and will soon co-Doflamingo, the devil's straw hat Luffy. Swish. Behind the smiling Brother Ming, several big trees suddenly transformed into spikes of silk thread spirals, which penetrated Luffy's body in the blink of an eye, and blood poured out. Is this the recovery from the 10 minutes they fought so hard for you? That's ridiculous. During the speech, Brother Ming pointed abruptly at the ruins on one side with his left hand, and then there was a scream in an instant. Luo, it's not your turn yet, you'd better not move. Luffy, who was seriously injured, and Luo, who fell into a stupor again, who else can stop Brother Ming's massacre? Fourth gear, rubber eraser, Great Ape King Gun. At some point, Luffy's figure appeared in the air, and that huge right fist the size of a house was completely tainted by Conqueror's haki. How dare you fight me in the air? It's time for all this to end. 16 holy bullets to kill God. Brother Ming laughed wildly, and everything on the entire island turned into sharp threads at the moment when his words fell, merged and condensed into 16 sharp spears shining with the golden light of God. Boom! The attacks of the two collided, and the ripples of energy continued to spread, and the huge wave formed easily lifted everyone watching the battle. This was the last blow of the two kings who tried their best. Did you see it? Brother Ming is just like you before, brutal and indiscriminate, and in the end, it is natural that everyone will resist. In the air in the distance, two figures, one gold and one blue, looked at the sunglasses that had fallen to the ground and had many cracks. They had already seen the end of the battle ahead of everyone else. Dressrosa is like the empty island before, and Brother Ming is no different from Analu. Both of them claim to be gods and rule their own country at will, even if this country was not originally owned by them. Owned territory. However, the powerful strength has already blinded the hearts of the two of them, and the mentality of being a superior person and despising everything will eventually lead them to a violent Kun road. HMPH, I've never attacked a seriously injured person, so I'm lucky for Straw Hat Luffy. Analu snorted lightly and turned into a flash of lightning. Lei Luo, who was in this situation, just smiled, and then fell into the area surrounded by a sea of fire. This is exactly where Sabo used the ability to burn the fruit to kill badgers just now. Lei Luo, why are you here? The moment Lei Luo landed, Sabo turned his head and asked. Puff quack quack. Lei Luo, I'll go take a call first, I'll talk about it later. Facing Sabo who was waving away at him, Lei Luo just nodded, and then turned his eyes to the dying Captain Badgers of the Blackbeard Pirates. No. Chapter 318_Iokiji's Proposal. In addition, the images of this battle have been spread all over the world, and all the crimes of Doflamingo have been known to the world. Boom. Just as the CP official finished speaking, the sandalwood table beside the bald 5-old star collapsed and shattered. Doflamingo, once a member of the Tianlong people, one of the 7 Wuhei under the king, controls many industries around the world, and both black and white are his world. the founder of the population auction on the #1 island of Chambord, the clown who smuggles and sells a large number of arms in the underground world, and the secret person who provides artificial devil fruits for the beast's guy. These countless titles belong directly to Doflamingo. Behind these black industries, there are the birth of slaves, endless wars and even more powerful pirates. However, the 5 old stars have always watched his small actions. The reason why they didn't arrest Brother Ming was because of the panic that Brother Ming brought to the world. First, he could better serve the Tianlong people. Second, it can unscrupulously raise people's taxes, and in addition, it can effectively contain some high-level naval officials who are single-minded about justice. But now, the fall of Doflamingo means that all this will end. Sakaski, order the entire navy to capture the Straw Hats and Luos. Because of the influence of this incident, the 5 old stars who were involved in their interests also regained their composure. I don't need you to care about the navy, Doflamingo, don't even think about getting out of the underwater prison in this life. Akainu snorted softly, turned around and left, leaving only an unextinguished cigar on the carpet in the room. The unpleasant smell of tobacco and fur burning together made the eyes of the 5 old stars flash with a strong killing intent. Alliance of Peacemakers. Gurges, feeling the power of the 8 inner gates, you have completely ignored your devil fruit advantages. In this way, the shortcoming of turning you into a landlubber will be infinitely magnified. Do you understand what I mean? Lei Luo, who had returned from the underworld, pointed at Gedger, who was cultivating, and appeared in a secret room with a flash. Here is the most hidden secret of the entire Peacemaker Alliance. Except for the staff inside and Lei Luo himself, even Analu and Master Yi don't know anything about it. And this, all because there is a man here who should have died long ago, Vinsmoke Gadge. Master. No need to salute, this time I brought back something new, you can try to incorporate it into the super soldier bloodline factor. After the words fell, a light blue flame suddenly ignited in Lei Luo's empty palm, and in it, there seemed to be a few small people-like air masses lying there quietly. These little people are nothing else, but the souls that Lei Luo found after going through untold hardships in the underworld, the souls of the saints from another world. Lei Luo, who thought that he had come to the underworld of the pirate world with the help of accumulated corpse energy, unexpectedly found an ancient tree with 108 black and gold fruits hanging on it after walking a distance, and immediately told him, this is the underworld of the Saint Seiya world. Master, the little people you brought are not genes and cannot carry any bloodline factors. However, these little people seem to be composed of countless fragments, and there is a method of casting armor hidden in them. After some research, Jiaji frowned and said to Lei Luo, how to cast armor? Could it be the holy garment that represents the power of the constellations? Lei Luo, who suddenly thought of something, came up to the instrument in front of Jiaji, peeked at the fragments contained in the little people, and the smile on his face became more and more hideous. Jage, can you make these armors with the current technology? Lei Luo's heart pounded at the thought that soon, he would be sitting on a group of troops armed with the 8 inner gates and wearing armors that could fuse with the power of the constellations. If everything can really develop according to his expectations, then it is only a matter of time before the 4 emperors are dismounted. Master, the forging method of these armors is not difficult, just those materials. What materials are needed? Just say it, and I'll get it done. The materials needed to make these armors are the stars that make up the constellations in the universe. Stars in the universe, this concept may be a distant term for other people. It can be in front of Lei Luo, but it only takes some effort, but it is not impossible to obtain. After all, Analu once lived on the moon, and Lei Luo also obtained a secret method from the system that can be discarded in a vacuum state. No matter how bad it is, he can rely on Gedger's fruit ability to roam freely in the universe. As for the only problem now, how to bring those huge stars back. Master, these armors cannot be mass-produced, and each constellation can only correspond to 1 pair of armors. Gigi suddenly said a word and directly helped Lei Luo solve all the current problems. You are here to familiarize yourself with the method of forging armor, and I will be back soon. At this moment, a corner of the empty island. Admiral, Badger's life card is also. Poison Q looked at the burning paper in front of him, and didn't even dare to look up at Blackbeard, who was in a rage. A newcomer who suddenly appeared in Beihai completely broke the plan he had planned for his whole life. Even Tiki's mentality was unacceptable. In the past, the Blackbeard pirates, who used to have unlimited breezes on the sea, now only have 4 people left. With such a gap, others have already collapsed. Lei Luo, when I meet you next time, it will be your death. Tiki bit Kiba, gnashing his teeth, and said, even the fat face can't stop the bulging veins. Hey, Tiki, this is what you call evil retribution. You who betrayed your father will be beheaded by Lei Luo sooner or later. Margao, whose whole body was intact, but his spirit was extremely weak, sneered and sneered. Boom. At that moment, the whole Sky Island was shaking constantly, which was Tiki's anger. He, who originally took Margot away, wanted to capture the regeneration ability of the Phoenix fruit, so as to make up for the drawback that the dark fruit could not be elementalized. However, just when he was about to implement the plan, he found that Margau's body could not be destroyed at all, and there was no object related to the sea tower on this huge empty island. Okay, put away your temper, and want to take revenge on Lei Luo, we just don't have the ability right now, so we must ally with other forces, and it must be at the level of the 4 emperors. I think, who should we ally with? You should know better than me, Tich. After a long time, Aokiji spoke slowly. Chapter 319-Jinbei's Crisis. Tich, do you feel that you are still qualified to form an alliance with us? On the Cake Island, the rude female voice with ultimate sarcasm laughed recklessly. The ant, who was in a good mood today, looked at the 2 short figures in front of her, sneered, and turned around to continue eating the caramel puff tower. 4 emperors. Blackbeard Tich, this kind of thing, is also embarrassed to stand side by side with the other 3 emperors. Being looked down upon by others, and not even being looked at in the eye, although Tich was very upset, he didn't show it. After all, this time he and Aokiji came here for the purpose of uniting with the Bigmom pirates, so as to complete the revenge against the Peacemaker Alliance. As for the follow-up plan, Charlotte Lingling, there is a saying I think you should have heard, the enemy of the enemy is the friend. The person who spoke was Ouchi, the former Admiral Ouchi, who was regarded as a nightmare by all pirates. A little junior even dares to call me by my first name. The ant who stopped the movement of her hands slowly turned her head, and the Conqueror's Haki and the soul spells were all activated. A former admiral of the navy, a former crew member of the 4 emperors, who gave them so much courage, how dare to talk to the emperor? Is it Sengoku Carp or Whitebeard Newgate? At that moment, with the ant as the main body, the invisible coercion enveloped the entire Cake Island in the blink of an eye, like a stench of blood from hell, making it difficult for people to even breathe. Soul Fruit ability can deprive one of the fears of the lifespan at will. If you don't know this ability, it's fine. If you understand it, the only effect is to increase the endless fear in your heart and pave the way for the display of its fruit ability. Is this the strength of the traditional 4 emperors? Drops of cold sweat fell from the foreheads of Aokiji and Tiki. This was the only time since the 2 of them were born that they had felt death and then constantly summoned their souls before they fought. Out of the instinct of protection consciousness, Aokiji and Blackbeard released Conqueror's Haki at the same time. I only heard a loud bang in the air, the sky was covered with clouds, the wind was howling all around, and the sea was even stirred up with waves, and even the Cake Island was split in 2 in an instant, one of which was the ant and her many others. Sons and daughters, but on the other side there are only 2 figures covered with darkness and ice. Mom, let's talk to them. If you continue, the painful price you will bring is absolutely beyond your imagination. Seeing the stalemate between the 2 sides, Katakuri glanced at the 2 Blackbeards with fear. When the words fell, all the previous visions dissipated, and Perospero silently used candy to repair the Cake Island. Tell me, what is the purpose of your alliance? Lei Luo, leader of the Peacemaker Alliance. A few months passed by, and during this period of time, the people of the East China Sea were all kneeling in the air, because every once in a while, there would be a meteor, surrounded by thunder, and streaking across the sky with dazzling light. Finally put together 108 Pluto galaxies. Putting down the last piece of the star shimmering with dark light in his hand, Lei Luo stretched his exhausted body, the long-lost refreshment kept hitting his brain, and bursts of came out of his mouth. This is something Lei Luo never thought of. He originally thought that what was stored in the villain was the method of casting holy clothes, and he immediately brought back the star fragments containing the power of the 5 powerful constellations such as Pegasus and Phoenix. Yes, but during the forging process, Jiaji accidentally discovered that the method of forging was actually created by the Underworld Holy Clothing, a underworld clothing owned by the Immortal Army under the command of the Underworld King. Master, during these days when you were away, a man who called himself a gambler sent a message asking you to call him back as soon as you got back. When Master Yi reported to Lei Luo what happened during this period of time, he took out a piece of belief with a dice drawn on it. Well, I see, then you can place these star fragments. After returning to his house, Lei Luo walked to a wall, tapped it lightly with his fingers, and the floor under his feet was separated, and a dark underground room with no light appeared. What did you say? On the Wanli Sunshine, Luffy and the others were shocked and seriously injured Hachi. Fishman Island was originally a territory sheltered by the Bigmom pirates. The Sun Pirates, who were born and raised on this island, also became a vassal of Big Mom many years ago. However, due to the emergence of the Peacemaker Alliance and the dream of Princess Beheim, Fishman Island has been transformed into the Peacemaker Alliance's territory. Jinping, a generation of sea heroes, led the Sun Pirates a few days ago for the sake of justice. Cake Island, in order to tell Auntie the news of quitting. Those who betray or withdraw without authorization will be killed without mercy. This is a well-known rule in the world. It belongs to the Bigmom pirate group. Even if it is his own children, once the above situation occurs, he will be stripped of his lifespan without hesitation, let alone without any blood relationship. The Sun Pirates. Damn it, the green algae head guy just got off the ship and headed to Wano country. Sanji, who knew Luffy very well, frowned. As a friend who is valued by Luffy, not to mention being arrested by the 4 emperors, even if he is executed by the Navy, Luffy will once again choose to make a scene at the Navy headquarters. So, Aokiji has prepared a big move. Lei Luo smiled sinisterly. The so-called gambler was none other than the current Admiral Fujitora. Akainu is about to fall out with the 5 old stars, so our actions must be accelerated to avoid. Report General, just received news from headquarters. Lei Luo, who was discussing with Fujitora how to fight next, heard Lieutenant General Mole's voice through the phone bug. Soon, Fujitora's voice sounded again, which was full of solemnity. Lei Luo, the Sun Pirates under your command will be executed by Charlotte Lingling in front of the world in 3 days by depriving them of all their lifespans, but you have to hold back, you can't ruin all our plans just because of a single piece. Beep, beep, beep. Still keep telling him. Fujitora, who put down the phone bug in his hand, sighed helplessly. As Jinpei, who has left the Navy and is still the captain of the pirate group, the Navy must not choose to take risks, especially when the opponent is the Bigmom pirate group, one of the 4 emperors. Hey, Marshal, contact Qingzi, our plan is going to change. After being silent for a while, Fujitora took out the phone bug that was covered in red yuhi. Chapter 320 Fist reappears. Analu, Yi, follow me. Gurges, you go to the Revolutionary Army and let them know that Straw Hat Luffy is about to challenge the Bigmom pirates today. Looking at the 3 figures that disappeared into the endless sea in the blink of an eye, Gurges did not dare to waste a second. Gurges, I'm Sabo, what happened? Straw Hat Luffy is going to challenge the 4 emperors Lingling. Time seems so insignificant in this endless sea. Seconds, minutes, and hours are just concepts. The smallest unit of time here is the sky. Just today, the BIGMOM pirates launched a live broadcast to the world, in order to use the death of the betrayal to awaken the slightly weak fear in people's hearts. Brother, I always have an ominous premonition, which seems to be related to the previous 5th emperor. In one corner, Katakuri had a serious face, and there were always messy images flashing in his mind. Is that the Straw Hat Luffy you said? It's just a hairy boy. It's so difficult to deal with a little Doflamingo, and to become the 5th emperor of the sea, he still has a long way to go, unless. Speaking of which, Perospero didn't say anything, but just smiled contemptuously. If you want to become the emperor of the sea, in addition to using time to prove your strength, there is a shortcut that everyone knows but has never succeeded in, and that is to defeat the current 4 emperors. Supernovas are indeed very powerful in the eyes of ordinary people, but in the eyes of the 4 emperors, they are just 11 babies who have just learned to walk, and they can't even run. People confrontation. Just like a few days ago, several supernovas headed by Kid challenged the Uhifa pirates. In the end, they didn't last even an hour, and Kid lost an arm. Perhaps the only thing worthy of their rejoicing is that after the Yuhi pirates defeated the challengers, they never chose to take their lives, so that they were lucky enough to continue their weak lives. Second child, what do you mean by that look? Could it be that Luffy stepped on us when he became the 5th emperor? Before he could finish speaking, Perospero laughed at his whimsy in his heart. If they can be defeated by a Straw Hat Boy in front of the people of the whole world, then there is no need for the BIGMOM pirates to exist. Wood tilde. The horn of execution sounded, and along with the ground shaking, the huge ants stepped onto Shingtai. Everyone, the 4 emperors on the sea symbolize strength and power, but the last time they took action was the Whitebeard pirates more than 2 years ago, and they were defeated by the navy. The emperor is just a fake diagram. Huh. The ant smiled politely, but her words were sharp-edged. 2 years is enough for a person to make a complete change, but it should not include some kind of emotion for certain things, such as the awe and fear of the BIGMOM pirates. The Whitebeard pirates, led by Newgate, the strongest man in the world, were defeated by the navy. Later, under the leadership of Margot, the Whitebeard pirates became the stepping stone for Blackbeard to ascend to the throne of the 4 emperors. These 2 things seem to be telling the 4 of them, and the dignified 4 emperors are nothing more than that. Today, let me relive for you what it is like to play with everyone's soul in the palm of my hand many years ago. I saw the corners of the ant's mouth rise slightly, and the mighty soul power burst out. The fluctuations that could be seen by the naked eye were unbearable even in space. The indescribable coercion was that across the screen, many people were also frightened. A cold sweat. Humans can die and their souls can be destroyed, but their spirits must not retreat, because this is the last line of defense that separates life and death. Once they are defeated, everything will vanish. Fear took root in the depths of the heart, then sprout and grow at a very fast speed, and finally attached to the blood flow throughout the body, making the whole person shrouded in despair. Boom, boom, boom. The members of the Sun Pirates stayed away from Big Mom like crazy, but no matter how they resisted, the final result was only in extreme pure panic, falling to the ground. Looking at the little white ball that appeared in her palm and her soul transformed into, the ant opened her mouth and swallowed it into her belly. The heart is beating, the body is young, and the lifespan is increasing. This invigorating and dripping feeling kept sprinting her brain nerves. 5,000 tile-positive fists. Because of the loss of lifespan, Jinbei, who had become weaker, struggled to break free from the restraints, and punched the ant's knee with all his strength. Snapped. The sound of fractures sounded, but the source was Shi Ping's palm. Is this still claiming to have a straight punch that can shatter 5,000 tiles in an instant? Now you don't say armament hockey, even jumping up seems so difficult, ha 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 ha. The ant who kicked Jinping away with her feet smiled condescendingly at the camera. This is the 4 emperors, the 4 emperors who allow no one to resist. Rubber rubber, 4th gear, Great Ape King Gun. Boom, boom, boom. A sudden voice of a young man resounded through everyone's eardrums. What was even more shocking was that at the moment when the huge pitch-black fist landed on the ant's face, the previously unshakable ant actually took a few steps back. Difficulty keeping your body in shape. On the other side, a blond man in black caught the aging Jinping, and beside him, a group of people stood impressively. Straw Hat Pirates. Bastard, dare to hurt Mom. 34 people, led by Cracker, the Minister of Biscuits, Smooch, the Minister of Juice, and Snag, the Minister of Fried Foods, swarmed over and surrounded the Straw Hats. To ask why the strongest Katakuri and the eldest son Perospero did not make a move, it was entirely because the former expected the appearance of a strong man, while the latter appeared at the commanding heights and commanded the overall situation. Come on. Katakuri looked up at the east, and his figure flashed. Fire Fist. An angry voice sounded, followed by a sea of fiercely burning flames, instantly turning the battlefield into two sides, standing against each other. Move, my brother, have you ever asked my fist? An ordinary water pipe can no longer be inserted into the ground from the air, and then a young man in a dress, surrounded by flames, appeared in the air, his eyes fixed on the Katakuri. Is it Sabo, Chief of Staff of the Revolutionary Army? Looking at the person who came, Perospero's face became cloudy,